here's my aside. Put this aside here. At the very beginning of this season of the story, 2012. I don't know if you have too much material to do any other years. Probably 2012 is good. So, that's the introduction to this. Here's my introduction and my aside. And you're watching the, audiobook playbill version of these letters. And it starts with a Teresa letter that we omitted because it was about a calendar. We're not going to show you. So there are some omissions because, it's kind of relevant. So there's probably other omissions as well. Yeah, including a swear word in a later letter here that we can't use. But yes, let us begin here. We're still in 2012, early 2012. And welcome to the third movie. Technically, the way this is structured is it was a 6-hour miniseries, a little over 6-hour miniseries, maybe even 7, and as a storybook, as a sort of a sitcom storybook. I don't know how to write sitcoms. Adam does that. So anyway, so just reading the letters as though it was a sitcom, right? So yeah, it's not that you're bonkers. So that's the introduction, and we'll move on. Catherine Michelle to Victoria. Happy start of 2012. I'm a cynical time person rather than a linear time person. I think she means cyclical. Yeah. That makes no sense, but that's what she said. Okay. I'm Catherine. This is Catherine Michelle, Victoria. Happy start of 2012. I'm a cyclical time person rather than a linear time person. So for me, every day is the start of a new year. And at this time of year, I celebrate winter solstice as being especially significant in my life. For all of you linear time people, Happy New Year. So she knows the 2012 thing was BS already in early 2012. I like it. Okay. For Christmas, I did the true senior citizen thing. I took a bus to Tucson and really had a good time. We visited Sobrino Canyon, Sonoran Wildlife Museum, which has a huge outdoor zoo with animals in native habitat, DeGrazia's studio, and spent more time than I wanted at Old Tucson, complete with shootouts and horse poop on the streets. I'm not a fan of the Old West. On Christmas Eve, we went to a Western cowboy restaurant that served wonderful mesquite-cooked steaks that were huge. This is the first overnight senior citizen bus trip I've done, and it's a great idea for those of us who would have been alone over Christmas. However, after I paid for this trip, I received 2 invitations, one for the 24th and another for the 25th, as some of my friends were not visiting family this year and were staying home. New Year's Eve was less spectacular. I did the true senior citizen thing of falling asleep while watching TV and woke up around 1 a.m. Now the fireworks are legal in Arizona. We have lost their appeal. And people in Summertown have finally been convinced that it's really stupid to fire guns into the air, so all was quiet around here. I regret to announce the death of my 2-year-old printer, and Best Buy says it will be a cheaper one just to buy a new one. But I will be buying a new computer either this week or next week, and then get me a good deal on a printer with a computer so I can get new letters done and get back to the reunion business. Lettuce is really picky. Peas in blossom. And I have small tomatoes. And when I have dinner tonight, I will pick some Chilano. But in spite of covering my string beans and some squash frozen, I will replant in several weeks, and we are sure there will be no more freezing temperatures. Cats are all rounded up for the night. So I need to make my dinner and settle down, watching what is on my DVR system. Happy 2012 to you and all. Live long and prosper. Catherine. January 10th. Catherine Michelle, Victoria. Hapschutzet, etc. Thanks for your words of sympathy. I only sent the letter a few of my friends, as many of them have the idea that it was just a cat, and you have 10 more. In fact, some of my friends don't even like pets of any kind. Naturally, those friends are not part of my social life, though I must say that my cats are not allowed to dominate the guests. I will let Shu and Isis mingle if the group is okay with this, and Emilia sometimes hangs around the area, but is not especially friendly. She prefers men guests, or small children, who want to dig in the dirt with him, and who share their dinner with him. And Isis is the cat who loves all people, but hates any of the other cats. So she is thrilled with company, especially anyone wearing black or navy, so she can shed white hair all over them. Yes, there is still 10 right now before Christmas. And I adopted another, a little 6-month-old black and white boy, who was on his last days at PetSmart, greatly reduced in price, and definitely slated to be euthanized, if not adopted. Our local Humane Society spays and neuters all adoptable animals, no matter how small, microchips them, and then kills them after a short time if they're not adopted. Less than a fourth of the animals they take get adopted. My kitten is named Set, or Sethos, and says a more complete biography and introduction will be coming as soon as I can get a picture of him. He's the most active and wiggly cat I have, as most of mine are adopted when much older. So far, the attempts at taking a picture of him have not been successful. As for the hissing at him phase, it's over, except for Isis, who generally hates all the other cats anyway. He will remain inside in the cat room of the house for at least another month before he's allowed outside in the morning. I am thinking that the time to have a party, memorial occasion, will be around Valentine's Day. I have in the past held an Egyptian brunch, serving items that are commonly served at breakfast in Egypt, or served at the hotel breakfast. Let it be known also that this version of Isis is an Egyptian goddess, and not some other group that uses the acronym. It's an Egyptian goddess. Anyway, on to the next thing. Just thought I'd aside. It should be warm enough then for the group to go outside as well as inside, as I don't hang around with an especially Christian group Sunday mornings are the best time to do this. This will get me time for me to locate fava beans, as they're a necessary part of any Egyptian breakfast. Today I am grounded, and will be all week. I ordered a new computer and some software and airport things that can be used all over the house, and a new printer, which is basically free, as it will have a huge rebate. However, all is coming by UPS, and of the 5 items ordered, only 2 will come together. The tracking for the printer, which is supposed to come today, only says it will come before the end of the day. So I suppose this means any time before 11:59 tonight. I'm in my nightgown, and I won't hear the doorbell if I am in the shower, and I definitely want to sign for it. With my dishonest neighbors, I can't just electronically sign for it and have it left by the door. It is now after 5, and I probably will just go and take a sponge bath and put on a clean nightgown. I'm really disgusted that Apple is making my computer not in this country but in China. I really thought that they were all American company. The computer will come last and should be here on Friday. Everything's made in China. It's been for years. It was sad to hear about the death of your friend and that she had addressed her Christmas cards before she died. Today I would have attended the memorial service of a friend of mine who died on Christmas, if I could have left the house. This friend was an artist who 2 years ago I got around to buying one of her paintings, which is in my living room. She was in her mid-90s, and in May when I had Hatshepsut's birthday party. When I had Hatshepsut's birthday party, had come for lunch, when she was still driving, but not at night. She said, I thought a strange way of dealing with death. I think she'd planned to die in July or August, and not last until December. In the summer, she said goodbye to most of her friends with a telephone call, telling us how grateful for our friendship she was. She didn't say that she no longer wanted company, as when she'd been sick, I usually dropped in with food or flowers. But when I asked if I could visit her, well, she said, call first, and when I did, the phone was only on message. So I'd not seen her since last June. She had hospice for the last 6 months of her life, and was determined to die at home, and she did. She loved the desert, and now where she painted the scene that I have. So, for a private memorial, I will visit the spot. Her memorial service was a traditional Episcopalian Eucharist. I'm sure that a trip to the desert would be more to her liking. So I hope that this in memory of her friend. They do and visit the casino, where you had planned to meet her. Dear Pat and it's just January. Dear Pat and Jim, I have a free room in Thunder Valley on Tuesday, January the 24th. Martha's coming with me, and she's the reason that we had to pick the day, as the kids are off school the next day, and Danny and Pam can stay with them overnight and get them off to school the next morning. This is a trip she planned for me on my last birthday. It says I got another birthday next month. It has been on the agenda too long already, and we waited for things to fall into place in our hectic lives. I do hope that you can get away and join us for the buffet and a little catch-up, as I realize your interest in gambling is limited. I promise not to make you drag your dinner on a tray over to the machines while I play. When I get that bad, I will have to join Gamblers Anonymous. I hope that you have a lovely Christmas, and that the New Year's looks good for you. I personally have had a sad last several weeks. My last and favorite aunt died in Duluth, as did 2 of my nurse friends. One was my roommate in nurses training. I was her maid of honor. Grandma Knapp used to say that the worst things about getting old is to watch your friends leave one at a time. I can now relate. It is hard to know what to say when you call people who you know that they're dying, though as far as they just seem glad to hear from you. It's a fact of life, but when it comes in bunches, it sure makes you think about things. I hate to close on a downer, but if I continue, I want to gamble this week to cheer myself up. Bob always told me it was therapeutic to go at least once a month. Love, Victoria. Yeah. Okay. In January, Tom Slattery. To Vicky. Miscellaneous update. We made Ron a little food tray at Christmas. Their family had the flu. I did a mass for Anne and my mom on the 1st of January. Ron has called me twice in the evening, and we chat. He still goes to the country buffet in the casino downtown. My Jim, now 33. Oh, this is actually... Yeah, this is... I wonder, is this really Slattery? Oh, well, maybe he has a son that... Okay, his son, okay. My son Jim, now 33, has some muscle cramps for some time. We know that he's vitamin D deficient, as is Courtney, as they are giving him a series of megadoses. However, his doctor says it's part of the puzzle. They put him under and did a muscle biopsy and sent it off to Mayo. Waiting for results, actually, today. I hope it's been about 3 weeks, I think. His girlfriend, Rachel, is absolutely lovely. I hope he hangs on to her. So this is another of their kids. Yeah. My Courtney is clinically depressed. She's seeing someone. She's only worked a day since November. She was physically sick twice and really run down. They're just trying to get her meds straightened out. And the one job fell through, and she's now pursuing another until she gets on track. We're blessed that John had a good job, a good income, and they can manage financially right now. John is 26 today. Tom's back is not improving, so this is actually Janice writing. Chronic pain will be the norm, I guess. Good days, bad days. And there's no options this time. Trying a new med regime. I am fine, no changes really. Bagley's a good Christmas season. St. Mary's equals people still having babies. I guess that's a reference to something. On Vegas, our May thing is off. They changed Jim's tournament to July, and work-wise, I cannot do that. He may not even go. We're waiting to see what is up with his health. They think of you guys often. So nice to have grandchildren and young people around. You know what? That is Jan. Why did it say Tom? It's Jan.
Corpy letter. June has been taking it well, knowing that her mother had been ailing for quite some time, and at 95 anything could have happened. I have a few more letters to write, but I thought you would like to know what has happened. Please do not tell Ron about the passing of June's mother for the moment. We would appreciate this. Dawn. Glad you were able to talk with Casey. I will send her a card and short letter, so I don't think I will call. I don't want to tire her out. From Michael's later, sounds like they found a really nice place for her, with good care and small size. I always thought Portland had good medical facilities, though, and had never had the opportunity to use them. He wrote a pretty comprehensive letter about his mom, and I am glad she is near them. Keep me posted as you're able, and thanks so much for the update. Look for love from MJ and Tom. Yeah, it's a Courtney letter, though.
Pat and Jim to Victoria. Fun at the casino. This is late in January. It was good to see you too and have time together. It was also nice to meet Candy. The food was bountiful, and I'm afraid we overindulged. But what the heck, it was a special occasion. We must get together more often. We miss you guys. Please keep us up to date on the Mossbergers and Judy's health. Jim spoke with both John and Martha today. Said John was very quiet, and Martha talked up a storm. He was convinced she knew who he was, and I hope that's true. He said John's voice was very weak, and he said regarding his health was, Jim, I'm sick. Both John and Martha were on the phone. Jim felt maybe John had held back with any other information. If you're upsetting Martha. Again, take care, and thanks for the invitation. It was a lovely evening. Love Pat and Jim. P.S. I love that we won $35. Love your girls had luck, too. Mom letter to Judy, January 26th, 2012. Dear lovely niece, did the casino trip Tuesday happen? Ours did. The Browns joined us for dinner at the buffet. We had a nice visit. After I brought them up to date with your folks' situation, Jim said he would telephone. He just emailed that he did, and said that your mom was very chatty, but that your dad seemed subdued and had little to say except for being, I'm sick. Jim said that it was probably because he didn't want to speak freely with Martha on the other line. So he was getting depressed, or it seems to me that would be a normal reaction for all this happening, just so he doesn't get low and needs a doctor's intervention. Did you say that he was on something to elevate his mood? Something they take a while to kick in? We enjoyed seeing the Browns. Martha's friend Candy also joined us. Pat and Jim just stayed about a half an hour after we ate. Candy got a royal, since her financial situation has been bad lately. Working now, but for a long layoff. The money was extra welcome. Martha went home with $35 a head. She only brought 80, supplemented by you-know-who. And we all brought home with pleasant memories. We will get several four-of-a-kind. We did get several four-of-a-kinds. Martha was so thrilled with her first one, and I was tickled for her. We had a good time. Then Dan called from work, and Sarah and her girlfriend oversaw the baby. That made me a little nervous, even though they are 14 and 15. So there was pressure to leave sooner than we really wanted to. This was Wednesday. But the machines were also getting less friendly, so it's just as well. I did get a bead on some 9-7 machines that I've missed before at the casino, so I guess I won't give up Thunder Valley yet. I'm not going to go with the seniors this Monday, however. Once a month is enough if I'm not ahead. Here's an... It must be awful to have to wait so long for your stint. I hope you put the yoga on hold. There was a TV section of people getting hurt doing yoga, mainly from repetition, although it's senior yoga, I think I've heard them. It sure caught my ears since it was the day after we discussed your yoga. I hope your doctor gets seasick, but only while on vacation. My love to Ken and the folks, and you, of course, love Auntie Victoria.
Hi, Auntie Vic. Wow, what a nice long letter. Yeah, we did make it to the casino. Mom was absolutely overjoyed. She should hold out for a few days. She didn't win, but who cares? She loved it. She scored a little higher on the evaluation than the neurologist. Answered some really hard questions and really did badly on the easy ones. Go figure. We talked about her anxiety and inability to comprehend Dad's condition. So she decided to step up her anxiety meds now, because things are obviously not going to improve. She really thinks that when she gets into a dementia facility, she will do better, much better. But then, we already knew that. Ken and I have found a place here in Elgin that would be great for her. Only 39 residents and run by 2 RNs, not a big corporation. We do know someone there, and can help us out there. It's called the Vines in Countryside. And then they give it a website. We don't really need to go into that website. Yeah.
Have her looking sort of at the camera, away from it. You can do it like the modern movies do it. Super close up. Ah! Don't show any background at all. Okay. February 2012. Pat and Jim to Vicky. Thanks so much for the updates on the events regarding John's death. That is, Uncle John Mossberger. I guess it's hard to tell if Martha really knows what's going on. That is, Aunt Martha. The wife, yeah. She certainly would be better off going to a place where there are plenty of activities and others to talk to. Certainly that can happen soon, but hopefully with Martha's agreement. We had no idea that John was as bad as he was, and I'm so glad I talked to him recently. He was such a great guy, a really great host when we were in Las Vegas. Also, it worked out so well when we were living in Minnesota, and could come to Chicago on occasion. Getting reconnected with all of Uncle Gene's family was a highlight of my life. So that is Eugene's... Grandpa Eugene's, Grandpa Eugene Brown, it's related to, It's the dad's side of the family meeting the other side of the family. Okay. Was a highlight of my life. There is so much I wish I'd asked my dad or Aunt Esther about living in Highland Center, and my dad's earlier life when he was married to Hazel. I know so very little about those years. It's good of you to want to help Judy, and too bad she's having problems of her own. I see your problem when I get to go, but I would think helping Judy after the procedure would be most helpful. Perhaps it doesn't matter, but Martha realizes she could be better off in assisted living facility, since she'll have 24-hour care at her home. So it may not work until you leave. But the timing is not paramount. I would say do what is best for Judy. Again, thanks for the updates and the assistance you are providing, and we'll provide our best to you. Love, Jim and Pat. Plus, try to find John's obit. It was not successful. I later found her obit. Okay. Still February 2012. Dear Dee Dee, I've been wanting to update you for some time, even before your lovely letter and Valentine came. In fact, I've purchased the Valentine some time ago, but so much has been going on that my good intentions must be near the threshold of hell by now. I am determined today to squeeze in some kind of a message, in hope of it getting there by Valentine's Day. Okay. A while back, when I would speak to Aunt Martha on the phone, she would admit that her husband John is a little under the weather. But in the next sentence tries to set up a meeting for them and for me to go to Vegas next month. She also spent some time pouting. Well, I'm assuming because they saw each other. Because John wouldn't take her gambling locally in Chicago anymore. Well, thanks to good intentions friends, we did, a while back, drive Martha and John to a casino in February, before he died. Yeah. Martha was in her glory. That is Aunt Martha. The friends reported that John seemed to tolerate the day all right, but fell asleep immediately in the back seat on the way home. Judy, their daughter, had clued me in about the casino trip and suggested that after they got home, it would be a good time to phone. I seized the opportunity because although I had taken out a few books on the library, what to say of comfort people who were dying, I hadn't had much time to read them, but at least this day we could talk about slot machines. It had been a family joke that you never went to ask John about what he's feeling, because he would proceed to tell you in great detail, and you were stuck listening for an hour as he described his aches and pains, body systems by body system. He didn't do that this time. He was too tired, except to say that everything he ate tasted like cotton. He did seem unusually grateful for the call, saying how glad he was to hear from me, and was exchanging love you messages. Martha got on the phone with more Vegas plans. The next day he couldn't get out of bed, and went downhill from there. Soon I was stunned when Judy phoned me Saturday, that's that Saturday, before noon, that he was gone. I didn't know that my spoiled, rotten family around here is going to do in my absence, even though I keep reminding them that I'm 76, almost, and can't live forever. I'll bring your letter to Chicago with me to really answer it. But I thought I'd better tell you what's going on. Unfortunately, you'll have to suffer through my handwriting, as Martha has no internet connection or printer. They do have running water, however, so thank God for small favors. Oops, started another page. Well, I keep this one on the computer for a while to see if I can get back to it. I'm meeting a friend for lunch. I've owed her since Bob's funeral, and it was one of my New Year's resolutions to finally keep my promise to get together. Well, where does the time go? I thought I'd have to cancel her on Chicago. It's a good thing I wasn't efficient enough to have rescheduled already. Sorry, ran out of time and want to post this. I'll write or email again as soon as I can. Love, Vicky. They're just playing parts. Parts is parts. Look, there's a set in the background and it's blurred. Look, I can do that with a digital camera. You guys in Hollywood should be able to figure that out. It's not that hard. This is a miniature set. God. You can still do a Gaussian blur. It's still possible. Look. It's not even a Gaussian blur. It's a yeah, anyway, so, okay, Mom, now I'm not around Vicky's birthday. No, and Valentine's Day. Kathy Tobias to Vicky. Hi, Vicky. It seems that you have your hands full again. Sorry for another loss in your family. Just seems to go on and on. In the last 2 weeks, we know of 5 people that have passed on, including one of Peter's cousins. I knew your family counts on you so much, and you were so dependable. As for Jan's high school friends, I just sort of remember Liz Quinn and Guinea Caillou, but not for sure. I do remember Darlene O, but how or where I'm unsure. And I know that George will greatly appreciate your presence at Jan's memorial service. Did you ever visit them in Colorado? We plan to be in Duluth for the reunion, and to have some time to visit with family there. Also, we plan to spend time in Minneapolis to see more family who did not get back in 2011. Maybe we can squeeze in lunch sometime in March. February's flying by. Valentine's Day.
Tom Slattery to Victoria. Night roaming. Again, good morning. I don't think it's normal for scents to leak, so just to think that Judy is on the mend. How old is she? Had you rather agree that Martha got settled in a new place and got acclimated? Then on to many things she can look forward to later as you come for a visit. Of course, I suppose that would depend on whether she can retain and remember. Martha must be getting up there. Was she older than Bob? Yes, she was. She was 2 years older than Dad, so 2 years. I sent you a card and mentioned that we have kept in contact with Ron. My brother said he had seen a Facebook comment from Jessie Douglas about how bummed she was at both of her grandmas. Anne and the recently June's mom had died, and that all she's going through it with Jeremy, the poor kid. I really like Jessie. Tom talked to Donald on the phone for a while one night when I was not home, but they didn't say too much about it. Big news. Courtney got a job at Gillette Children's in St. Paul. It's a temporarily 6-month position as an RN facilitator of establishing a computerized medication system. Well, something like that. However, during her 3 interviews, they told her she can assume she is now part of the Gillette family, and other opportunities may present themselves down the line. They are building a new pediatric psych unit. Courtney said, no thank you. It's Monday through Friday. No weekends. Same schedule as John. Pay is great. It'll help them to catch up. John's treatments are now every 2 months, so somebody's got some kind of treatments. He's training for a 5K obstacle course thing in June called the Warrior Run or something. It goes into it. I'm going to go up a hill with obstacles. Sounds like boot camp to me. He's exhausted a lot, but managing and learning to avoid the foods that irritate him. So there's kind of weird exercise diet, I guess, that he's... Yeah. Brandon will be home for a bit in June with Lindy, and we will be meeting Rachel's, Jim's girlfriend. It's a different Jim, obviously. This is a Slattery. There's a lot of Jims. It's a different relative of the Slattery. We'll be meeting Rachel's, Jim's girlfriend, parents from Dickinson, when we go there this weekend on my birthday in May. Gary Pitocchi, Sharon, and I, and spouses, plan to get together and meet halfway towards Sharon's for dinner, or something. Sharon does not drive in winter too much, or at night. Those two do not see each other often, or seldom. There's another brother out there, John from Superior, younger than me. I guess he has some issues since an accident, and I was brought up. And that we say he's very nice, but they quite haven't wanted me to meet him yet. My brother Stephen is fine. I worry about him as he gets on so caught and passionate about the world, politics, mercury in the water, the way his work is run. Also something. I guess I am just so midline or laid back about those types of things. I worry he gets too excited and will get ulcers. Of course, or my roaming at 3:30, I guess in the morning. Our home computer is toast. That's why I'm just out here where Tom brings the laptop, which goes back and forth to work with him. So I did know you wrote last night. So there will be some lag time. Anyway, take care. Hi to all. Good night, Jan. Sounds like Jan that wrote that, but that's fine. Yeah, I'm writing in favor of Jan as Tom Slattery. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay.
Mid-February. February, late February. Donald and June. I just replayed your birthday and New Year's cards and enjoyed them so much again. They are great. Judy is recovering nicely from her procedure. She phoned yesterday from the dementia home, where her mother was having a look around. She said she would phone back when I haven't heard how it went. She also didn't respond to my email that I sent last night. I hope that things didn't get complicated. If for some reason she is staying with her mom at the house, they don't have whatever that is that you need to use the internet. Another reason that I couldn't have gone to John's funeral, even if I had a ticket in hand, is that I went to bed with that Sunday night and woke up vomiting and my stomach is still not right. But getting better thanks to some heavy-duty antacids that my doctor has on me for 2 weeks. He ran blood tests for liver and kidney problems, but they were fine. I told Judy in the above-mentioned email that I would have to get to the bottom of what ails me before I could fly out anywhere. All Judy needs is another old lady to take care of. I miss my coffee and wine, but I don't dare yet. I did make lasagna for dinner and managed to survive that. Sure beats the bland food I had it to be on. So that's progress. I should give Ron a call. It's been a while. After the many topics I should avoid. Are there many topics I should avoid? I made hotel reservations for the reunion. I plan on being in Duluth a little before and a little after those dates. I can see everybody. I forgot the name of the hotel. It's one of those down by the river. There's no rush at this point, but my friend who found the hotel for the reunion says that there was a rush booking the rooms. I guess September is a high tourist month due to the fall leaves. I thank you a lot and hope things are going better. Love, Vicky. Okay, going on into February the 25th. I'm just going to skip some things, though. February 25th. I'm going to skip something. Dear Diane, sorry to be so late responding to your very nice Christmas letter, but it's been hectic around here. More about that later. Thank you much for the family genealogy. Your mom used to keep me somewhat up to date, but I soon got lost of all the D's. At least I saw a D. I feared she was talking about your kids rather than Bonnie's. It's so nice to know who is who. I'll try to reciprocate. I did find that list, and I was like, what is this? Okay. First of all, we have the test batch, as Bob and I used to call them. My stepchildren. They're all over 60 now, which makes me feel older than dirt. Robert is the oldest at 68. He lives with Yvonne in Vancouver, Washington. They're not happy together anymore, as Yvonne has an undisciplined dog that jumps on Robert any chance it gets. Robert, who had a stroke about 5 years ago, is afraid of falling, that it will trip over the dog. Yvonne is very fond of the dog and treats it like a baby. She's probably lonesome. She's divorced a few years back. Rick was good riddance, however. He was much worse than the dog. And I met the dog in 2011, and I said, Yvonne, I can train this dog. Just let me stay here like a week, I can train it. Yeah, it didn't happen, but I could have trained that dog. It was just a puppy. He was acting goofy. I could have done it. Oh well, she had to. Anyway, so back to the story. I could train that dog. Robert has 2 children. Lisa, who lives with her husband Sheldon in Wyoming, Michigan. Wyoming, Michigan. Their kids are Amanda, who is 12, Robert, who is 14, and Daniel, who is 10. Robert's son David is the family's mystery. Nobody knows where he is. He was last seen at Bob's funeral about 10 years ago. I'm going to skip some of this part because why is she telling her friend Diane about stuff that happened in the 90s? I get it, she's old, but we don't need that. He was last seen at Bob's funeral. He's brilliant with computers. The last I heard, he worked from his apartment, never going out. Sad, such a handsome boy, too. I'm still friends with Robert's first wife, the first of 4. And in fact, say that she and her husband, also named Bob, when I go to Michigan. I see them when I go to Michigan. Teresa mentioned at Christmas that she may come out this year to look for David. She can usually track him down. Up to a year ago or so, he would phone her on rare occasions. Yvonne, who is 61, actually, she's probably, if Robert's 68, she's 63, not 61. But that's fine. Yvonne has 3 kids. The oldest is John, unmarried. Rachel is married to Troy. They have 2 kids, Kale and Ava. They live in Vancouver. Yvonne's youngest is Erica, who lives with a boyfriend in Bend, Oregon. Let's say that. That's Erica gave her family a hard time when she was living at home. She wrecked 6 cars and caused a variety of troubles. Robert is through with her and won't have her around, so is Rachel. Only Yvonne has contact, and that's recent, and I've also contacted Erica. Erica never did anything bad to me. She seems to be settling down and growing up finally. Perhaps there's hope, but Robert sure doesn't think so. Ramona, who is 64, Ramona would be, if Robert's 68, Ramona would be 66, but okay, Ramona, 64. Lives in Mays Landing, New Jersey with her significant other, Daniel. It's another Daniel. Unmarried, and an unmarried daughter, Aaliyah. Saying that because she has a kid. She has another unmarried daughter, Ariel. No, Ariel's the one with the kid. With a baby. And right before Christmas. She lives with the baby's father in a house that she purchased. Dang, she must be rich. Ariel must be breaking into dough over there in Jersey. Yeah, I'm just, as an aside. I can get along very well with all the steps. I thought I might see most of them for Bob. I might see most of them after Bob died, but they seem to have grown close instead. Oh, I get along very well with all the steps. She means stepchildren. I thought I might see less of them after Bob died, but they seem to have grown closer instead. They have said they appreciate how I took care of their dad. Yvonne had taken to calling me Mom the last few years. I still can't get used to it, as they all called me Vicky as they were growing up. Robert made a couple of trips down here to help me while Bob was dying. Of course, they were all here for the funeral. Martha, who's 44, no, yeah, that's right, lives 2 blocks away in Mom's mother's house with her daughter Sarah, 14. That's what she says. She and the baby are covered under a parent's plan. Dan works part-time, but no benefits. Process of switching to working at another radio station, which shows more promise of being hired full-time. They all come to Sunday dinner. Reminds me of the people around the table at your house. Adam is now 41 and lives with me. He has Asperger's syndrome and high-functioning autism, and will probably never be employed despite 2 college degrees. We're getting married. Social skills is not a problem with Asperger's. Oh, yeah, that would... Actually, the money is what would do that. Yeah, just let me think of it. Yeah, how can you go on dates if you don't have any money? Can't do that. As an aside. Yeah, you can't, like, meet somebody. They're going to say, oh, yeah, the father's going to say, a great prospect there. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. That's why it hasn't happened. I don't got the money. He seems fairly content with his lot. But I do worry what will happen after I die. The family has limited patience with his disability. They don't really comprehend how hard it is not to be able to read another person's body language. Yeah, I thought it was like they were psychic or something. It's just that I was loud. He can't tell when he should drop something into conversation because he can't read all the little signs that a person is bored or wants to change the subject for some reason. And he's never gotten the hang of the social lying that's required to not hurt someone's feelings. Blunt and honesty is not always good. Blunt honesty is not always good. Your family sounds great, and I'll be the part to appreciate them even more after reading about some of the situation in mine. So it's nice that you have healthier... Heather. So it's nice that you have Heather staying with you. You have a night to be... Wow, I really screwed that up. Okay. Your family sounds great, and I'll bet you appreciate them even more after reading about some of the situation in mine. It's so nice that you have Heather staying with you, I'm assuming daughter. You have a right to be very proud of her. What is Bonnie up to? With 2 kids in California, hopefully you will come out this way someday. Give me advanced warning to clear out the guest room. She was saying she was going to invite somebody in her letters, and then always fretting when they actually said, yeah, I'm going to totally come. And she'd freak out. Actually going to be here, what? Ah! Exactly. She always do that. I hope that the medical problems you mentioned are not too serious. Ever since late fall, I've been busy on the computer and phone keeping track of several friends and relatives with health problems. The end of September, I may go through midway to the 60th reunion of our high school class in Duluth. I was planning to visit Bob's family. Of course, now John is gone, and Martha may not even know me by then. That is Aunt Martha and Uncle John. I'm not sure she recognizes me right away when I phoned her, but she fakes it pretty well. Then she will ask me where I live, and I've been here for 48 years, and she has visited many times. Judy says that one day her mother will wonder why Bobby hasn't come to visit in a while, and the next she will say how much she misses him now that he's gone. I'm mainly doing it for Judy's sake. She's been through so much lately, and I'm afraid it won't get better for a while. Judy's her Aunt Martha's daughter. Yes. And of course, everyone's so spoiled around here that they don't want me going any longer than necessary. Also, nobody knows how to cook. Although Danny can come up with a meat hamburger, he grinds the chuck roast so that we can have them medium rare instead of no pink. Earlier in May, I am going to Boulder, Colorado. The husband of the roommate who died, her roommate who died, wants 3 of Janice's best friends to come for a memorial service. He's so devastated by his loss that none of us have the hearts to say no. I stood up for them while they got married. He's planned other things for us besides the service. Tourist stuff, plus a casino trip for me. Their daughter will be flying in from Virginia to chaperone. This sets up the other stuff, so it's fine reading. Oh, Michael Ryan. And we are back. Judy writes a letter. We're still in February, so there's plenty of time. Judy, because it kind of looks a little like Judy. Okay, still late February, last day of February. It was a leap year, so yeah. Judy, Auntie Vic, did you win? Well, I got my stitches out today. Amen and hallelujah. Still a bit stiff, and it helps a lot. He said it was healing well, that is the doctor, and lifted all the restrictions. She had a back thing. Well, I can lift stuff and vacuum. Boo hiss. I thought I could play that card for a while. We did stop at the gambling boat here in Elgin for a short time, and didn't win. But it was nice to get out for a while in a gambling establishment. Yeah, they had a boat on the lake. I guess Elgin's, yeah, right on the lake. Boat. They have a limited number of video poker, mostly dollar machines, so I just played one and kept me busy for a couple of hours. We'll go there when you come. Not my favorite place, but at least it's fun. How did you do? Hope you got at least one royal. It's all coming together for Mom to move to the Vines on Sunday. So far, no resistance. We've been talking it up for a week now. Ken and Em are taking her out to breakfast tomorrow, and she gets her hair done in the afternoon. We're trying to keep her busy. She did tell me yesterday that she is very depressed, to which I said that it was very normal for her to miss Dad, as they were together for many years. I put Dad's wedding ring on a chain around her neck. She seems to like that idea. When Doug died, she wore one of his rings around her neck for several years, and it seemed like good therapy. So Doug is their brother died of like cancer in the 80s? In the 80s. Yeah. Did we know how your trip went? And I'll talk to you soon. Love and hugs. LN, or Love Me Leash Judy. She called herself that. All right. An article about a storm. Well, that's fine, I guess. March the 1st. June Corby to Victoria. Yesterday we had the first real storm of the winter. I guess we even made national news. Locals think the coverage was silly and hokey. We have way worse storms all the time. There's just been such a mild winter that we haven't had any like this worse than this year. I can remember a 3-day-long blizzard where we got over 3 feet of snow. So compared to that, this was next to nothing. I must admit that Dawn and I enjoyed the storm. We've been so short on snow this winter that we were very concerned about the fire threat in the spring. So every bit of snow come down, and the risk, and we are glad. I must admit that Dawn and I enjoyed the storm. We've been in short for snow this winter, and that we were very concerned about the fire threat in the spring. So every bit of snow cuts down on the risk, and we are glad to see it. We were scheduled to close the sale of my mom's house yesterday, but the closing company lost power, and they had to close the business. Usually the universities in the area stay open no matter what, but they closed yesterday, as well as all the public and private schools, lots of businesses, banks, etc. So we had to close today instead, and so I was grateful that we didn't have to go over there and shovel out her house and driveway. Now the new owners will be responsible for doing that. It's a much relief to be free of that additional responsibility. We've been thinking of you. Take care. Hugs, Dawn in June. A little before 20. Really since 9/11. Anyway, so I could leave the politics out, but that is funny what you just said. March 2012. Dear Pat and Jim, Judy foresees a problem when it sinks in that she's not going home. So far, so good. With Aunt Martha, right out of the gate. Doesn't say who this is. About Aunt Martha, Judy foresees a problem where it sinks in that she's not going to go home. But so far, so good. Judy is doing well herself. She was a little sorer and stiffer than she expected to be for a while after her procedure, but she says that things are improved. I promised her that I would update you, and I certainly meant to do so before this. But it's easy to get off course around here. Somebody always needs something that they haven't foreseen, or they never planned ahead of our time. The family trained not to bother me during the O'Reilly time period. But now that I have a DVR, even this holy hour, as you call it, is not safe. That guy is unholy. That guy's as unholy as it's possible. It's remarkable how unholy he was. Anyway, yeah. But they like those bitching pundit guys that complain about everything, and they themselves don't look in a mirror. Anyway, as an aside, but she loved the Bill O'Reilly show, and no one else did. Yeah. Judy wants me to come to help clear out John and Martha's house in preparation for sale, but it's willing to wait until May. On May 2, I go to Boulder, Colorado with the husband of my roommate in nurse's training, and invited her 3 best friends to a special memorial service for her. I was a maid of honor at their wedding 54 years ago. Janice died in early December, and he's so devastated by his loss that none of us wanted to turn him down. The service will be on a Saturday. She's buried in the Abbey, and the monks only do these things on Saturday, according to George. So it's Catholic now. Aside from the memorial, he has a 3-day agenda, show up around the area, and do tourist stuff. Their daughter is also flying in from Virginia. He told me that if we would stay an extra day, he would take me over to the mountains to 2 great casinos where he and Jan had some luck. Now, how can I turn down a man in mourning? So the trip to Chicago area may be linked with Boulder trip, either before or after, with a stopover in Boulder. Ken is going to get on the computer and figure out our flights for me. Thank God. Since writing letters and doing emails are the only things that I ever want to do on the computer, joining Facebook has no appeal to me. Dear Janice, happy St. Patrick's Day. We won't be making corned beef and cabbage until the family dinner tomorrow. I have done my Grandma Leone thing as far back as I can remember. Dan doesn't like corned beef and cabbage. Adam can't tolerate it. Cyber, yes. So they get peanut butter and jelly. Just kidding. I'll probably make them a hamburger. Or maybe Dan will cook them, as they are his specialty. Dan is the only one in the family, aside from me, who likes to cook. With Dan's special hamburgers, grind the ground chuck ourselves right before cooking, after searing the germs off the outside. So we're going to handle them pink and not dried out. I love corned beef and cabbage, but it even goes with my new low-carb way of eating. Stocked up on the rye bread for leftovers, even though I don't get to eat much bread. I've only been on the low-carb thing. Yeah, skipping that. What really inspired me is that last year my fasting blood glucose was 120. I'm not going to read that either. Thanks for the birthday card. It was hilarious. Thanks for the birthday card. It was hilarious. We all get a good laugh. I'm not sure that Philip got it, but that's just as well. I spent considerable time before giving up looking for your last letter. I did find the one that you wrote on St. Patrick's Day in 2011. You called it belated Christmas letter. But so much has transpired for both of us since then. I did keep your last letter. According to Murphy's Law, it'll turn up the minute I put a new one in the mailbox. Meanwhile, if I ignored my present issues, you mentioned last time, blame my memory, not my intent. I don't recall that you wrote it in the wee small hours of the morning. Are you having trouble sleeping? Or is it just that the time frame? Lord knows that you have enough time on your mind. Now, so there's another line about a television show she's watching. We don't care about that. Next month I'm traveling. The husband of my ex-roommate, Janice, has invited the 3 of us, closest friends since nurse's training, to a special memorial for her in Boulder. Apparently, the monks only did that events on Saturday. We arrived May 4th. Their daughter will also fly in from... We'll get them over that. They have a large house. Their daughter will fly in from Virginia. They also have a large house, so will give us a whole upstairs. Said that the trip will only cost us plane fare. All of us know George, and he was so devastated by his loss that none of us had the heart to say no. I would have preferred to have seen her before she died, and I almost did. We even discussed it with a mutual friend who urged me to go. But then I remembered that when Bob was dying, I was so busy and stressed out that the last thing on earth that I wanted was to deal with out-of-town company, close friend or not, so I didn't go. Most of the time, Martha's happy in the home. That means Aunt Martha. There's no transition there. Most of the time, Aunt Martha, or Martha, or Bob's sister, is happy in the home. She has her beloved bingo, and being social and talkative prefers to be around, and talkative, and prefers to be around other people and not home alone. She needed somebody watching her 24/7 while she was at home, and that got too expensive. So it's also now located much closer to Judy's house, so Judy sees her often. Actually, most days, Martha thinks she's in a hotel with a restaurant. Judy has taken her for lunch in there a couple of times prior to admission to get her used to the surroundings. But on lucid days, she of course wants to go home, even though she had complained while they were about not going anywhere, and it was driving her crazy. I told her on the phone, I'm not sure that she really knew who I was, that I would take her gambling when I got there. It really cheered her up. I hope she doesn't throw away too many aces. Physically, she is fine. I will leave Boulder on May 9th and return to California on Mother's Day. I wish I had the time and the money to make a side trip to Minnesota, but I'm coming to the last part of September. While in the Chicago area, I'm hoping to see John and Marty Corpy. Maybe they will drive halfway from Zion. That is Zion, Illinois. They expressed a interest in Zion, Minnesota. No, Minnesota. They expressed an interest in, but didn't have the plans nailed down yet. I'm worried about being gone 10 days from Adam's sake. The rest of the family pretty much ignores him. His best friend also went on vacation that week. Of course, he'll have to do without me someday. Maybe this will inspire him to take on more volunteer work this year, since he can't find a real job. They're challenging his disability again. More lawyer fees, I assume. As you can get better from autism. As if you can get better from autism. I hope Tom's back is a little better. He considered acupuncture. Have you considered acupuncture? I can't imagine that stuff working. We have a lot of Asians around here like it. I hope to turn around some for Courtney. Things turn around some for Courtney. I hope things turn around some for Courtney. I'll be glad that Brandon is still in love. I think that he and his lady ought to think about visiting the Bay Area one of these days. And she keeps trying to invite people over, and when they, as like I said before, it's like when that actually occurred, she was a nervous wreck. Oh no, these people are coming in. It's like you invited them. But yeah, but for one thing, it'll give me motive to get the crap out of the guest room. Also, I'd like to get to know him better. He seems great at the wedding. I think that he and Dan would hit it off. This letter has been on my list since I set the card. Unfortunately, I see the tax man Monday, and I had to get the papers ready. Okay, but why is that in there? And the cat threw up. Probably no connection, but I'm not sure. But today promises to be better, even though it has rained here all week. We need the rain, but I was running out of things to complain about. Also, perhaps now we can flush our toilets each and every time this year. Hi to Tom and Steve. Look, I don't know if... Well, Dan gets along with most people, but I don't know if... I mean, Courtney's husband, she and Courtney are a little younger than Dan, so... Probably not. I mean, they get along, but they wouldn't have hit it off, necessarily. I know what she means. It doesn't mean anything gross, but... Judy to Auntie Vic. Hello. I just talked to Adam. You were running out errands. That's pretty cool to answer my email with a colored font inserted in the text. I didn't learn about it until someone sent me one, and then I learned how. I was thinking of you visiting the relatives from Zion, etc. It just seems to me like since you are only going to be here 3 nights, I'm very reluctant to give you up for a whole day visiting with them. I know it's selfish, but you need to stay a lot longer so we have time for others. By the time we visit Mom, do the casino, and try to get a visit with Greg and Karen, it'll be time for you to go home. Yeah, she's Catholic. Judy and Ken are Catholic. No. I just want you to think about it, and you really want to see them, we will make it work. I figured Friday is the best day for the casino trip as Saturday. Usually it's too crowded. And Saturday will probably work with G and K, of course. And you have to be up really, really early on Sunday, so the flight home. Let me know what you think. Mom is doing just okay. She's been refusing to eat, so they've given her the appetite stimulant and some Ensure. She ate pretty well last night, and again today, so maybe it's working. She still complains constantly about going home and seeing Dad, but as we were walking down the hall today, she was waving at everyone and was friendly. She knows a lot of them by name and has one woman that she's so close to. They sit together for meals. She goes in her room and they visit. Progress? It's so discouraging at the house. The clutter is never ending. At least the post office forwards some mail here. The rest ends up in AH for limbo. Yeah, who knows? I think as soon as you... I think I'll talk to you soon. When you answer this, and try the colored font. Have fun. Okay, we're in April. Is that your Easter was falling in early April? It wouldn't fall again on early April until 2024. Mom died. Yeah, many years later. So here we go back to April 2012. Dear Dee Dee, thank you for the beautiful Easter card and letter. It's always great to hear from you. I have a card for a week, but it's been a busy one, and now I'm rushing to get it out and make Easter. I know the story of my life. Of course, yesterday, all of the day was a monthly casino trip. I didn't know the Indians there were cheating. None of them supposedly high payoff machines act like the ones in Reno or Vegas, or even in the other California casinos. That's weird. It's a weird sentence. I think what she means is she thinks the Indian casinos cheat, but if they were actually doing that, their casino wouldn't be open for very long. So they're probably just tight machines, because yeah, their casino would be out of business. They're not regulated as they are in Nevada, so I guess they can rig them anyway, that they want to. This is the third in a row non-productive trip. The two before them have given me a free hotel room. Yesterday's was a day bus trip. Yesterday's was a day bus trip. 3 strikes and they're out. My trips to Boulder and Chicago are incoming. I fly to Denver May 4 and stay there until May 9, when I fly to Midway in Chicago. I'll return to California on Mother's Day. George, the husband of my ex-roommate who died, is taking me to a casino that's supposed to be generous. Colorado does regulate its casinos. And when I get to Chicago, niece Judy will take both me and her mother, Martha, to another casino. Where's she going to get all that money? This will constitute my April-May monthly trips. My family won't force me to join Gamblers Anonymous as long as I just gamble once a month. George, Janice, and I had fun at the downtown Duluth casino when they were here for our 50th high school reunion, and since he considers the May trip the casino part of his memorial to Janice, when I'd argue, who's to argue with giving him to mourning? Guy in mourning. Who's to argue with a guy in mourning? Yes. He's gone off the deep end a little, in my opinion, since she died, and believe me, it's Priest who told them that now that Janice is on his side every moment. He said that Bob was by my side also. I said, fine, maybe they will point us to a good machine. I said, that's not how that works. So that's an aside. It's interesting that the priest would say that. Is he Episcopalian? That's interesting. I'm not sure what George is there. I just reviewed my last email to you and find that I didn't tell you very much about the Boulder trip. George has invited me, 3 of Jan's closest friends from nurses training, to a memorial ceremony for her. She's buried in some sort of abbey, where the monks only do these, that'd be Catholic monks. Only do these events on Saturday. The next day, there would also be a memorial mass. George's daughter, Marianne, will also fly in from Virginia to play hostess. Okay. Yeah, we don't need to go into reincarnation and stuff, but I'm wondering, okay. I guess it's her opinion. Yeah, we won't do that. I mean, yeah, it's entirely possible, sure, but wouldn't that be as an aside, wouldn't that be okay, if they weren't in heaven, they would be on earth hanging out with you at a casino? I mean, they didn't go to heaven, right? So something went wrong. They're still here. As a ghost. Oh, okay. Yeah, anyway, back to the story. They have a big house, and we ladies get the entire upstairs. We were all landing at Denver within an hour of each other, and George will meet us, all of us. George was so heartbroken when Janice died that none of the 3 of us wanted to turn down the invitation to come to Boulder. I'm not positive that she had me placed in the last name that I called her, but she sure perked up when I mentioned casinos. I hope that she doesn't throw away too many eggs. Wow, there's a transition from heck right here. She means Aunt Martha. She didn't go to that right there. Okay, in the middle of this, yeah, there's already signs of mom's dementia in these letters. Early on, in these early... Interesting. Okay, or at least not transitioning. It's probably more ADHD. She kind of had that a little bit. Or ADD. She kind of had that. Of Aunt Martha, I'm not positive that she had me placed the last month I called her, but she sure perked up when I mentioned casino. I hope that she doesn't throw away too many aces. Niece Judy is recovering nicely from her procedure. Back procedure. My heart goes... Oh, I think it was actually a heart procedure. It's a stent. My heart goes out to Tyler having to endure all that medical stuff. I'm going to skip that. Lost parents too. And then there's a sports guy. Let's skip that. Sports kid on a sports team. If your dad were still here, I'd almost be afraid to read it. Do the kids remember him? Martha's kids seldom refer to Bob, except for Danny, of course. Bob was more like a father today. I've never been to Arizona either. Why did you guys choose Scottsdale? Danny has often wanted to go there because he believes that's where the Giants held spring training. I used to have I used to have a friend there, but he didn't close his kitchen cabinet, bent down to get something, knocked on the door on the way up, and died of cerebral hemorrhage. I've been a fanatic about closing cupboard doors ever since his funeral, which was held in this area because he had family there before he retired to Scottsdale. Ah, the infamous Lou Trusty, the cabinet guy. Well, that's a new story for the history books, but it's not new. It's 10 years earlier, but it probably wasn't the cabinet. It was probably the fall after the cabinet when he hit the ground and probably busted his head open. That's probably what did it. It wasn't the cabinet. It was, yeah. He probably hit the countertop, too, on the way down. Yeah, so it wasn't the cabinet that did it. The cabinet was just the impact that, yeah. But yeah, a friend from work. A friend from work. Yes, Marvel didn't think of it first. There we go. Let's see, where was I? Must have been a heavy kitchen cabinet. Any special place I should check out if Dan ever succeeds in dragging me to Scottsdale because he can't wait for the baseball season to start? Of course, there was more of a threat before he tried. Of course, there was more of a threat before he tried to tie himself. Wow. Okay. Of course, there was more of a threat before he tied himself down working hard to support his family. I wonder how they will make out if... I'm not going to read that part. Donovan is adorable, but I am concerned because he will be 2 in July and is not talking yet. He makes enough noise, so he's not a mute. Obviously understands everything you say to him. Oh, he just didn't want to... Maybe it's because all he has to do is point, and 6 people attend to him to get him whatever he wants. That was it. Yeah, he's not... Anyway... Misty can't be 51. Thanks for the update, and for making me feel that ancient mariner. Seriously, I'd like to have her close by, at least part of the year. When will she visit, or have you planned on going down there? You'd better hurry before gas is $9 a gallon. It never got to $9 a gallon. Not even now. Anyways, as an aside, I will give you a blow-by-blow of my pending trips when I return. I haven't seen one of the nurses for over 50 years. I hope she was nice enough to have gotten fat also. That's kind of messed up. Let's say obese. She's gotten nice enough to... She's nice enough to have gotten obese also. I have lost 10 pounds this month. So it wasn't a pound a month. It was over a month. I miss my pasta. You are only allowed 1/4 cup, so you might as well forget it. Thank God I can have wine. 5 ounces. Meanwhile, up the Easter Bunny brings you chocolate. So goodbye. And she ends the... Victoria, Catherine Lacey. Thank you. Dear Casey. Your advice was sound. It didn't feel like a lecture. Even before you replied, I was glad that I hadn't sent that letter to Jean. So when I received that email from George, I suddenly realized how upset he would be if he didn't attend because he expects a full report. He's very excited about the reunion, as Jan had definitely planned to go. Jean had written him a very nice letter that seemed it touched him deeply. You would have been proud of me, as I didn't snarl even once when he read it. He thinks all of Jan's friends are wonderful and all their connections are a solace to him. Jean managed to make it sound representative of the entire class, and he was delighted. He gave a bunch of Jan's stuff, as his wife, to deliver to the reunion. So there's Jean's and there's Jan's, which is very confusing, but that's what's going on. So Jean, she was going to write a nasty letter, which she didn't send. Actually, I was the one that stopped her. I'll take the credit for that. That was not Martha or Dan that stopped her. Well, I'm sure she went to Dan too, but yeah. I just said, don't send angry emails. This is the early stages of angry email stuff. You don't say. Anyway, so yeah, that's what she's writing about. And we won't go into the drama because why? Yeah. Anyway, we're going to go back to this because this is the Boulder trip, and it's a little different. So he keeps saying that he couldn't believe that the 3 of us had actually come all that way to Boulder to honor Jan, and he certainly pulled out all the stops. He and his daughter Marianne had worked out an agenda for every day. It was non-stop eating at truly fabulous restaurants and high in the Rockies. The views were breathtaking. They made our Sierras look like foothills. We toured the mountains one day in the Cadillac limo. I think that the driver was a friend that he joined for all of us for lunch. Lunch that day was at the Stanley Hotel, the Stanley Steamer Brothers, which is also where they filmed The Outside of The Shining. The outside or the inside? I think it was the outside. Because the inside was another place. If the room where the murders took place in the movie hadn't been occupied, there would have been a tour. So they did use one of the rooms in that hotel for the murder. Oddly enough, there is a long waiting list for honeymooners who went to spend a night in that room. Hopefully they predict that nothing about that. Their marriage will end up that way. Hopefully that predicts nothing about how their marriages will end up. I will send you pictures and a copy of the agenda that George and Marianne laid out. We couldn't get to half the stuff, and Marianne was so gracious and sweet, just like her mother. I stayed an extra day so we could go gambling at Black Hawk. Not to be confused with the other one over here. I was expecting one casino, and the whole town of them. There was a whole town of them attached to each other, in townhouses, and they just run the mountain. That's kind of what happened, but we'll say that's what happened. It's fine. Yeah. Sure. That's what happened. I was sorry that I hadn't brought my camera that day, as the layout is quite unique. I was sorry that I hadn't brought my camera that day, as the layout is quite unique. George promised. I was sorry that I hadn't brought my camera that day, as the layout is quite unique. George promised to get a postcard or take a picture the next time he went. The casinos are kind of hard to describe to people. It will be easier with a photo. They were chalets. They were chalets. They were casino houses. How's that hard to describe? I don't know. They were little German, done up in the Tudor Baroque, the chalets. Unlike the houses Mom was describing earlier that were actually Victorians. They were actually Baroque. George, a little bit Gothic. George is a pretty good gambler, but I did get a kick out of one way that he was playing. It was a video poker situation where there was a premium if you got 4 aces, as you're really supposed to hang on to the aces and hope that the other 2 or 3 will pop up, and then you win big bucks. George sometimes kept the 2 queens and tossed the aces because he liked the queen because it reminded him of Janice. That is very romantic, but not too practical. Yeah, if it was an aces machine, what was he doing? I will write more about Boulder later. Right now, I have to clear some DVR space so that I can tape Clark Howard. Who cares? That guy was a bunkers too. Yeah, the DVR. No, I'll write more about it later. I will tell you hear from either George or Marianne about the fires. I emailed her today because I wanted to make sure that she knew about his decision not to let them take down the trees. If it were my house threatened, I'd have them take the trees down. The grass, the driveway, whatever. I hope that he's not making a mistake. Or maybe he feels that it would not help to take them down. Which is how I worded it to Marianne. That way, if the fire doesn't get there, he will still have his lovely trees. It's a beautiful house. And a dream house. They bought the land when they first got married and built it just that way they wanted 11 years ago. And Jan had written me in 2010 about having to evacuate due to another fire threat. Right now, I don't know what I'll do about that letter, except not send it. I'm really tired of the whole thing. Don't even want to reread it myself at the moment. It made me feel a whole lot better just knowing that you have a good picture of the situation. Thanks again. So he sent a letter to Casey, because Casey was the Marx Cards or John Yeager of her group. Casey, even though she's got an oxygen tank and emphysema, would be like, okay, yeah, don't be stupid. Yeah, don't be an idiot. Don't send mean letters to people about drama. That's just not worth it. Also, the news channel she was listening to, called Fox News back then, I can totally say that, had a habit of making incredible statements about stuff that actually wasn't necessarily happening there in the world, so they could get news ratings, including fires going everywhere and stuff like that. Did that all the time. There might have been fires, but they probably were nowhere near him. Colorado's a state, there might have been another fire earlier, but it wasn't anywhere near him. Anyway, so yeah, which they did a lot on that channel. I'm going to go on to... Still in June. Dear Marge, are you off to some exotic place? Dear Marge, are you off to some exotic place to celebrate your birthday? It'd be hard to top Shanghai. What a remarkable experience. I'm so glad you got to go. And I thoroughly loved your recount of the trip. We don't have that, incidentally. You should have written it up before the newspaper for all of Duluth to enjoy. Just a random thought, though. May I assume that Shenlong is no siblings due to the one-child thing in China? Or should I believe everything that I see on TV? I don't think she's going to answer that. That's all I got to say about that. and it's not even, that name is not even, yeah. I have reviewed your last year's emails and letters and am now wondering if I answered your questions about what my age was. And we're going to go and skip over that. I believe... And then she jumps immediately to, after mentioning surgeries and biopsies and things that we don't need to cover, she jumps to, out of context, she also thinks that John is still alive and resting down in the hall. Who? Mom, you gotta put in the who person you're talking to. even if it is Marjorie. You still got to put in the person talking to. Got to put in that. Yeah, there has to be a line in there. There's no line in there. And I just thought I'd put that aside. Okay. Aunt Martha. I'm talking about Aunt Martha now. She also thinks that John is still alive and resting down the hall. She wants us to be sure to say goodbye to him when we leave, or we'll be upset if he missed us. Most of the time, she thinks she's in a hotel in Vegas, and wonders when John will get there to pick her up, so they can go back to Chicago. It's so sad. Also, it turns out that I tackled Chicago onto my next recent trip to Boulder, where I attended a special memorial service for my ex-roommate who died in December. George had invited 3 of us, Janice's special friends, from nurses training for the mini vacation in Denver. I'm not going to read the mini vacation thing again because I read it twice, and there's certainly enough description. So I'm skipping for this movie. Janet sent me a photo of their home relating to the daughter, but the photo didn't do it justice. I was expecting sort of a glorified cabin in the woods. It was as large as your home, with a full basement that didn't even resemble a basement. It just seemed like an additional floor in the house, with the guest living quarters and an office. I would say it was a split-level house against a mountain in the picture. Yeah, it was just a big, like several-level house, yeah. It wasn't really a basement. The ground floor was partly underneath. Yeah. George and Marianne had a sightseeing agenda laid out for every day. We toured the Rockies in a Cadillac limo. I think the driver was a friend. Yeah, we say that. They went to the Continental Divide, close to the cars due to the snow. Closed for cars, and they couldn't go to that. Trip ended up at the Stanley Hotel from The Shining. Yes, that's right, again. Unfortunately, it was booked. Yeah, she mentions the murder room again. We don't need that. And the elegant restaurant. Don't need that. Yeah. I'm skipping through a lot of this because, yeah. I got an email from George just recently in answer to one that I had sent him about the Colorado fires. Adam had looked up the county in Colorado that was in trouble then, and it wasn't George's. Told you. I knew that story because I was a journalism major. I looked it up. Let's see if it was real. I was dismayed to learn that the fire department had told him that it wasn't as if, but when the fire reached his area, and he grabbed Janice's memorabilia and prepared to evacuate. I keep watching the news and praying for a miracle, but it wasn't in his town, so didn't worry about it. When they were near him, Janice heard me that a similar fire had occurred in 2010, and they did have to leave. Well, there is some precedent there, as she's saying here. But let's skip to, because news is irrelevant now. Rosie sent me Evelyn's first day picture. She is beautiful. I had formerly believed that most newborns look alike. I'm so happy for her. Thank goodness Donovan's second birthday won't be held here. Pam's folks bought a gorgeous new home, about 50 miles away. They wanted to show off. These people have more money than sense. I don't know what they were thinking, except perhaps they wanted to get away from Pam and Dan, who were living with them then. They now have their own apartment. But she still watches Donovan, if Dan has a shift on her days off, as does Martha. I don't watch him, except for an hour schedule overlap on Wednesdays. I love him to pieces, and he loves being with me since I take him to the park, and when we get home I allow him to float his toys in the bathroom sink. 4 very labor-intensive activities, as I don't take my eyes off him for a second. Even Dan has commented, GGG, my new moniker, sounds for great-grandmother. Donovan never cries when I leave when he's with you. I guess I'll just let Dan stay amazed for a little while longer about the separation anxiety thing. But I have no illusions about why I'm so popular. We already have the 3rd birthday planned out. We're all going to Disneyland for 3 days. 2 for more Dan saying that there's a good casino 30 miles away. He knows I'm not fond of rides, and that I'll be the one watching Donovan while the rest of them go on the churning adventures. Did they do that? I don't think they did that. I did that 3 years later, 2015. Maybe they went. They didn't bring her because that would be weird. She didn't go to Disneyland. Perhaps I'll take Donovan on the rides that are grounded like Small World. I remember that one from when my kids were little. Thanks for the gambling necklace, which at least stays in my pocket if I'm wearing jeans. I have 2 royal flushes dealt to me last year. That was the year before. Nichols, and she keeps mentioning the royal flushes, yes. Planning to be in Duluth for our 60th high school reunion. She has mentioned that in the other 2 movies. And connecting the other 2 movies. She's planning on going to Duluth for her 60th high school reunion, which will be on September the 30th. Let's just skip that. Besides checking on Bob's relatives, I need to allow more days than... all right, I'll be there. I am planning to be in Duluth for our 60th high school reunion, which will be September 25th through the 28th, plus a few days thereafter for visiting. I will probably route through Chicago, on the way to Duluth, but not back. Besides checking on Bob's relatives, I need to allow more days for the last visit. There was no time to visit John Corpy in nearby Zion, Illinois, or to see other cousin on my dad's side who lives on the south side of Chicago, because I don't particularly want to go, even though hers is a good neighborhood, but it's too far. I'm hoping that I can coax her to drive up to Midway before I take the shuttle to Elgin, where Judy and her husband Ken live. I always stay with them. I am hoping that Rosie will find pause to visit Duluth during the time frame I mentioned and ask her to think about it. I'm getting too old to get lost trying to find her house, and will probably just fly in and out of Duluth. Your mom will especially be on her mind this week, her birthday. And I hope that yours is great. Not on my mind. So. July 2012. Dear Janice, this is probably the latest birthday card you have ever received, but I've just reread your last letter and see that I missed it, despite having asked when I was. And I want to make amends. Being organized is not one of the gifts bestowed upon me, even though I keep working at it. Somewhere inside me there is an efficient and organized person trying to get out. Bob used to tease me about all the plastic crates and shelves I would purchase toward that end. Adam has threatened to submit me to the hoarder program on TV, even though he's not a whole lot better. He thinks his clutter is treasure, at the same time designated mine is junk whenever I want to save something. Keeps reminding myself that it took Marjorie and me about 20 minutes to go through and mostly toss a pile of paper keepsakes my mom had kept through the years. That's what slows me down with my stuff. I have to read everything again before I toss it, and then often decide to keep it. I'm sure that my kids will garbage it without problem. Of course, my goal is to have it all organized before I die, even though, unless my pace improves, I'll have to live to be 140. Now she goes into the Boulder trip. I will just say that it happened, because she goes into it. Boulder was a visit that I never forget. My ex-roommate's husband, George, and his daughter had an agenda planned for every day and wouldn't let any of us spend a nickel. He said he couldn't believe that all of us would come, and the plane ticket was enough for us to spend. They really pulled out all the stops. And then she goes into the story, visiting the hotel. She does say it's a Jack Nicholson movie, The Shining, is mentioned, and the casino afterward, and the eating. It's the same story, so I'm not gonna go into that one again. This one great picture is of Buffalo Bill, the grave where Buffalo Bill was buried. There was a museum connected with it. The other graves, of course, Janice's. Although there's no actual body there, she ended up wanting to be cremated, so the ashes are buried in about a square-foot part of it. The grave was right in the churchyard, where they held a memorial mass that we all attended. So that's different information. One day, we went up on a high mountain and toured a site where they monitor all of the weather for the U.S. I can't recall its exact name right now, but it was quite an interesting tour. Another day, we went to St. Cabrini's Shrine. Everyone there is so up on the mountain, or one mountain or another. The views are something else. They make our Sierras look like foothills. And then they mentions the gambling trip, passing Blackhawk. You mentioning gambling, got that. It was much prettier than Vegas, no glitzy crap. It's sort of hard to describe, but George promised to pick up a postcard the next time he goes gambling and send it to me as I was meaning or forgetting my camera. I forgot my camera. Now she mentions the fires again. She doubles down on there having to be fires there in danger of extinction. But they weren't in his area. They just weren't. No, the news must be right, even though it wasn't on that one channel. Yeah. But we'll skip that. I got an email a couple of days ago. It says it looks bad, but all he's carting away are photos and memorabilia. So it can't be that bad. He's not evacuating his house. Yeah, just got your email. I had no idea that the flood would get to you. So there's flooding in her area. And I don't care about that. It's not relevant now. And now we jump to lawyers and compensations and why. I'm sorry about Rachel, that's their daughter, I guess. You can't blame her for needing a commitment, and I'm sure that you don't. No doubt the breakup was hard on both, and get used to having a person around. You and Tom were a couple so early that you probably never experienced the ping-pong relationship that gets on in dating. There are a couple of them for me. I wouldn't know what I could have been thinking. There were... You and Tom were a couple so early that you probably never experienced the ping-pong relationships that go on with dating. There were a couple of them for me, and where I wonder now what I could have been thinking, and am delighted that they didn't work out, because nobody would have told me that back then. And my mother was constantly trying to marry me off to anyone with at least one testicle. Those were the days. I'm sorry that Courtney is out of work again. Martha, her daughter, has been working for about a month now, but will only last until they can find someone who speaks Spanish. And then she mentions a friend that works at a jail, but that's not relevant. Dawn and June didn't mention Ron very often. I hope they are still in touch. I guess I better phone him one of these days again. It's hard to think of what to talk about, and it usually takes me 10 calls before I catch him at home. He said to call before 9 a.m., but that's pretty darn early around here. Actually, a call that requires a little inspiration. I'll call him, though. Yeah, 9 a.m. Duluth time would be, like, 6 here? Yeah, a little early. I had to look up what an agate was. No coincidence that I just had lunch with old friends who were all enthused about some other kind of stone and rocks that could be made into jewelry. Right now, I don't know where I put the notes that they made me write down. Details when they turn up. But the festival turns out for you to be fun. I hope the festival turns out to be fun. When is your reunion? Mine's September 25th to the 28th. She goes on to talk about the reunion. All right. I want to stay for enough time after the reunion to get some visiting in. There was no time to see John Corpy and Xeon last trip. Relatives want me to stop again on the way to Duluth. And perhaps this time I can get to Xeon, or at least meet John and Marty halfway. So there's like several Marthas. I know that they have a reunion in Duluth in August, but I'm not sure of the dates. This has turned into a book. Yep, that's what this is. I have to go to the post office to wait. She means the letter. I did weigh the thing about the post office, but they had kept to calibrate their scale. That doesn't matter. Donovan was 2 years old July 3rd. Pam's folks are hosting. Donovan is 2 years old this past July 3rd. Pam's folks are hosting this Sunday. It was very hot here a year ago when we had that party here. Maybe they want to show off their new home, which is in Gilroy, about 40 miles from here. Yeah, it's about 40. They used to live in San Jose. She used to be able to walk for her job as an ICU supervisor. That's Pam's mother. Yeah. Now, not anymore. Their house in San Jose was very nice. Good neighborhood, too. Pam's two brothers couldn't have been too happy to have had to leave their high school friends. Oh well. Off to Gilroy. We must go.
Okay, this one is a June and Dawn, and there will be parts omitted because, again, same information is given to another person about this trip that happened. We don't need that. The Buffalo Bill stuff was added to this one as well. To Dear June and Dawn. Dear June and Dawn. Here's hoping that this letter finds you further along on your recovery road. It must be so discouraging to wait for those things you want to go. Do you have a Kindle? I'm not even sure how to spell it, as I hate reading things from the computer or any other screen. But your circumstances are different. I usually print out anything long that I can read for a page. Just another weird thing I get away with because I'm old. And the list grows. Of course, my kids all think I'm promoting a return to the Dark Ages because I don't run around with electronic cords hanging from my ears like they do. That'd be grandkids, actually. My hearing aid is so close as I want to get, as close as I get to any. My hearing aid is the closest thing I want to get to anything like that. Judging from your last email, I can't tell if I already told you about my Boulder trip. Yeah, you did. Computer is even more eccentric than I am and loves to hide things from me. Until Adam gets home and manages miraculously to locate those very things in other places on the computer. Places that I have no desire to learn, by the way. She doesn't know what the apps on the computer screen are. To go to different places on the screen. Yeah. Buffalo Bill Museum is mentioned. Tour ending with lunch. Nursing classmates. Skip ahead. I wish I could remember the name of the restaurant that we stayed at, but I haven't heard of it. Not being a member of the 1%. Everything was exquisite and served with subtle waiters in Texas. It was a nice change from the trend today, where the manager instructs their servers should be over-friendly, and they check on you 10 times to see how things are going, like they really care how your day is going, before you came into the door. We had so much fun that it was hard to remember that hard travel. It was a memorial service for Janet. They got a double grave for him and Janice. Yeah, he's also, an aside here, I'm kind of skipping ahead. Also, note that I don't think he's of the 1%. I don't think he's that rich. Maybe the first 25%. Rich, yes, but not a 1%. He's not a 1%. If he was a 1%er, he would be like the guy who owns Amazon, Jeff Bezos, or the guy that owns Twitter now, X, whatever. Maybe that's a 1%er. No, 20 in the 25 richest percentiles around. So yeah, he doesn't have billions of dollars. He has like millions of dollars, which is something. But yeah, yeah, millions. He had millions of dollars, not billions. Adam is keeping busy with church work this summer. He already volunteers a week for sports camp, and Monday starts vacation Bible school, where he's helping the little ones with arts and crafts. He also is an assistant director on Sunday, even after for a college group at the church. I'm not an assistant director, but that would be cool. I wasn't an assistant director. I was hoping this wouldn't. I was hoping this wouldn't work out too well, as he starts at 5:30 p.m. and interferes with our Sunday night dinners. But he joins the family for dessert. Half of the time, he can't eat part of what I'm serving anyway due to his IBS, so I end up fixing him something different just for church. And his Bible study and another night, and choir practice on Wednesday nights. Don't ask me how he ended up with such a religious son. It's because he watches Fox News, which is evil. That's what it was. Yeah. No. I couldn't stand being with that, listening to Fox News. I go to church instead. That's literally what it was. No. It's literally what it was. That's not literally what it was. I'm kidding. But yeah, this other job director, she promoted me to assistant director. Sunday, what? Assistant director for what? College group at the church. I was not leader of that group. That's weird. Yeah, I wasn't. No. Is she referring to the college group? I was not a director. I was just there. The college group that Martha got me kicked out of, by the way. A little bit later on. I'm not sure why, really, to this day, why she did that. I don't know why she did that. Anyway, yeah, if I was going to meet people, I had to meet people, right? Stepdaughter Yvonne is going to fly in for a few days, July 14th. Martha and she have birthdays around the same week, mid-July, so we'll have a little party. Yvonne is a sweetheart, which goes to show you shouldn't live up to teenagers, as she really put us through our paces at one time. Maybe there's hope for Martha's Sarah yet. Although, probably I'll find her age 14 a bit obnoxious. Well, Sarah wasn't like Martha. No, Sarah was more street smart. She couldn't get away with it. Probably because Dan stopped most of it. Yeah, as an aside. She's more street smart. I think Martha accepts something. There's hope. Yeah, I think Martha thinks there's hope too. The truth be told, I'm currently okay. I'm gonna give up on the other comments here about a book. She mentions the supposed curse, which isn't true, and yeah, there's no curse. My new driving. Now the summer's here and Martha's working, and I get tapped for a lot of emergencies, last-minute driving requests. A shopping trip to the mall is always classified as an emergency. At this rate, I may be the first senior citizen happy when they take away my car keys. And now, since I have been up this road about 4 times with different generations, I think I get used to it by now, but lugging around a sullen teenager connected to her text messages so she doesn't have to make conversation if she even remembers how, is not my idea of fun duty. I recently encouraged Martha to get her a bus pass, which she did. Now I only have to save Sarah when she misses the bus. And she used to be such a delightful child. My goodness, this is turning into a book. You may have to read it in installments. It is a book. It's not just a letter, but the book. Yeah, this is an essay, and I'm skipping parts. The floods in Duluth were something. Jan Slattery mentioned those. I'm going to skip that. Yes, there were floods in Duluth, but there were not fires in that area of Colorado. Our weather here has been great, but the Chicago relatives are sweltering. And the Giants, being used to nice weather, have positively melted and can't seem to win any more games in the unaccustomed heat and humidity. Of course, they're also playing first-place teams on the road trip. They were first place before the road trip. It's painful to watch them lately. They would win the World Series again in 2012. Yep. After 3 years of failure, I'm getting a good zucchini crop this year. I've also put in blueberries, raspberries, and blackberry bushes. They all died. I'm still trying to watch the carbs and the sugars. So skip that. Productive lemon tree. That lemon tree is still alive in 2025, by the way. It's still not alive. It's still not dead. We have an apricot tree is also still alive. She mentioned that. And it doesn't produce apricots. It never has. It's produces little tiny little things that kind of resemble apricots. I'm giving up on lawns. We have killed the grass on the front lawn and intend to put in water-wise planting. I also have several rose bushes. A couple of lavender ones I planted in memory of Grandma Leone, who loved purple flowers. Yes, they still come up. The rose bushes are still there. I have several yellow ones, which were Roseanne's favorite. I planted a pink one when Sarah was born, and another yellow one for Philip. The year of Dan and Pam gave me a coral and two-toned coral for Mother's Day. Now, those still come up. A neighbor once told me not to worry, that you can't kill roses, and it turns out she was right. Except for the one Adam took out, roots and all, thinking it was a weed. That was when he was a teenager. You mentioned apple trees. Any pie makers around there? I bake them very infrequently now, because of all the sugar. I may experiment with Splenda. Oh, they haven't discovered the Splenda problem. And there's a lot of time and energy invested in that. If it doesn't turn out. And apples have loads of carbohydrates, even before you add sugar. Now that I'm watching sugar intake, it seems to be in everything. Otherwise, food would taste like crap. How far along is right now? We're getting close. I guess it catches you up for now, but for some reason, when I make coffee, I often think that the two of you, Martha gave me a Keurig coffee maker for Christmas. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
October 13th, 2012. Victoria, from Catherine Lisi. Subject, reunion update. Oh, it's to Casey. Gosh, I've thought of you every day since I got back. But there's always been so much going on around here that I run out of time and energy before I can sit down to email. Today I finally got one out to George. Jean, that is a letter. Yeah. Jean had me worried about her health and the fires in her neighborhood. She was jumped to the top of the list. Actually, they weren't, but yes. Yeah. Also, she sent me flowers for driving her around one day so she could see her brother, Eddie. So I had to let her know that the flowers had arrived and to thank her. Also, I'd been waiting for Adam to provide me with pictures that I could attach to emails, and he's had a busy week. We learned today that the pictures won't work out. Something about the grainy quality due to the cheap disposable camera I used. He did manage to print them up instead, so I will try to send a few to you on Monday. I remember that. Pictures were terrible, the 60th reunion. There are other ones on the Tobias DVD. They were terrible. Besides family issues, more about that later, the baseball playoffs are going on. Also, like you, I've been following the election stuff closely. I know I could get more done if I weren't so interested in politics and baseball, but I love both of those things. Heck, in previous years, even after the Giants were no longer in the running, I always enjoyed them so far. Nobody, including Dan and me, expected them to get this far. It's been miraculously exciting. I jump up during the commercials to peek at my neglected to-do list. And now to the gossip. We toured St. Scholastica. On one of the days, tour was led by Sister Mary Josephine Torberg. I'm not sure of her position there, but it seems to be high. She was the one who accepted George's check at a special dinner. She seems to be a very sweet person. As she was in high school, but apparently is too liberal for the Pope. A committee of 5 outside nuns were sent to look the college over, and some sort of decision is imminent. Sister Mary Josephine said, and apparently believes, that she can't imagine what the problem is, but that she's sure that everything is fine. I got a little sleepy as she was describing the non-believers, the Muslims, the Buddhists, and the Catholics, even in their study groups, and now they were all discovered universal truth, and all that, and how God the Father blessed them all. I woke up when I heard her refer to God as the Mother. No, that's not what she said. I'm sure that's not what she said. Kathy Tobias and I locked eyes, as indicated that we were at least knew the problem was. Kathy then told sister that she would never send any child or grandchild of hers to Salaska if that's what they were teaching now. Fortunately, Jean wasn't on that particular tour and later got a little ticked off when she learned what Kathy had said. Now Jean has a different view and probably knows a lot more about the politics of the whole thing. As I said, I wasn't paying much attention to the talk at first. Also, there's a tall sculpture in one of the student study areas that is supposed to be the Blessed Virgin, but you wouldn't know it unless you turned over the postcards they had at the base of the thing, where it described what you were looking at. It reminded me of a used tin of sardines. Bigger, of course. But then, what do I know? Everybody at the reunion was mellowed out, and much friendlier than they ever were in high school. The first few minutes with Jean were a little tense, as she had not gotten the message I'd left on her phone to say that I arrived at Hinckley. She had been concerned about my shoulder injury and was sort of standing by to have a hand or some sort of problem developed. I didn't find out until the next day that she'd not received the phone message, so I don't know what she was thinking when we greeted each other at the wine and cheese reception. Maybe that I deliberately avoided making contact. Anyway, each day we each thawed out a bit more, but we're not particularly chummy. On the last day, I heard her tell somebody that she had not been able to reach her brother. Eddie has Asperger's and sometimes doesn't answer the door or the phone. She indicated that she was giving up. I told her that it was free in the afternoon Saturday, and I would drive her out to Lakeside if she wanted to see him. And she would take him to the mall because I had to go to a birthday present for Marjorie's son. I was going to go to Teddy's 21st birthday party at Marge and Mike's that night. Bill Galinsky and Martha, that's his Martha, would also be there. Jean also wanted to have a Coney Island at the mall in memory of her father. The two of them had a Saturday ritual of hot dogs at the mall. Before we left for Lakeshore, she had managed to contact Eddie, and we headed out there with Jean, where Jean suggested that he may not even be there when we arrived, and she hoped for God's sake that he was wearing something clean. Well, he was, and he was even fairly sociable. We went to Calvary afterward. I found Roseanne's grave easily, but could not find my dad's. Cutbacks caused the place to have nobody in the office on Saturday. Eddie got out of the car without me asking and helped me search for Dad's grave. We never did find it, but Jean later told me that he was not used to putting himself out for anybody, and that she was astonished how well he was behaving. I'm really glad that she got to spend time with her brother, and she has thanked me repeatedly. Perhaps she had told him that my son had Asperger's also, and that made him feel more comfortable with me. Anyway, I was glad to have met him also. The machines at the Duluth casinos were not especially friendly, but on the way to Rosie's and Lino Lakes the day before, I was asked to fly back home. I stopped at the Grand Casino in Hinckley, and I got a royal flush for $1,000. That nicely paid for the trip. I had a great time with all the cousins and my good friend Dee Dee Dodge Campanero. Dee Dee was 9 years old when I first met her. Her parents were good friends of mine. Although I'd never been a Girl Scout, her troop needed a leader, and I became it. Frankly, trying to keep one handbook chapter ahead of the troop, I always visited her and Dave when I got to Duluth. I'll send those pictures out soon. Any more recollections of the reunion that might pop up. Love, Vicky. Jumping to October 26th. Dear Rosie and Victor, things are pretty exciting around here with the Giants in the World Series. Maybe it will be decided by the time you get the Halloween card. Dan has been able to watch many of the playoffs and both the series games with me so far, as Pam had to work late. We each have a special Giants t-shirt that we have worn during all the wins. You may know how superstitious baseball fans are, and we don't want to jinx the Giants by not wearing them. One difference, though, is that I wash mine in between games. Dan thinks that washing it will break the spell. That may be the case, but he may end up watching the remaining games from the yard through the front window. Although I must admit he doesn't smell too ripe yet. By the end of Game 2 last night, Pam and the rest of the family had joined us for pizza. It was a fun night. I want to thank you again for your marvelous hospitality. It was so great to spend time with you again. The whole trip to Minnesota was an A1 experience, and getting to see you just made it much better. The only thing I'm wondering is how come when I get older looking, neither of you seem to have. I'd hoped to have the garage cleared out, enough to have a haunted house, as I promised Phil last year. But it's still too cluttered, with stuff from not only me and Adam, the rest of the family also. Yeah. Martha had almost no storage space, since she has a garage converted to a master bedroom, and Dan's apartment is small. They share a rental space at the storage place where Dan works, but it's full. To compromise, we are having a haunted front yard. We have killed the grass with thick cardboard topped with soil, we did last year. So there's no problem putting in the half-dozen gravestones that we bought, although with skeletons and bloody parts that appear to be trying to emerge from the ground, and a dripping blood-red "Help Me" sign covering the picture window. As for the assorted skulls and a big rubber bat hanging off the roof gutters, Phil is pleased. Oh yes, Danny fixed a strobe light to make sure that everything is well illuminated. And we like eerie background music. My candy assortment includes bloody eyeball bubble gum that I found in the dollar store. It probably tastes like crap, but it fits the theme. I used to hate answering the door on Halloween, but I'm looking forward to it this year. I also want to help for the family. Usually they have other things to attend, but this year they are enthused about the haunted front yard. So we'll lend a hand with distributing candy. Of course, I could be trying to watch a World Series game on Halloween, but we hope it doesn't go to Game 6. We are going to skip the Dee and Dave letter, because it's just about Halloween again. Okay, we're going to go to Marge, because it relates to the reunion. Back to the Marge and the reunion. Alright, October 26th. Dear Marge, just a short letter to thank you again for the lovely evening at your home. I had such a fun time, and the food was delicious. It was wonderful and special to see you all again. There's a lot going on here with the Giants and the World Series, and getting ready for Halloween. I hope it doesn't go to Game 6, as that would be on Halloween, and I would hate all those doorbell interruptions while I'm trying to watch the game. Since you're not a baseball fan, I'll recap for you. The Giants have won the first 2 games. The winner is the first one to win 4 games of 7. Tomorrow night is Game 3, but will be played in Detroit instead of here. There's a home team advantage, so the Tigers might do a little better in Detroit. So far we have dominated, which was a surprise, even to us in Detroit. It was good, as if they're a good, fierce team. I've been watching many of the playoff games with Danny. Baseball fans harbor many superstitions. Baseball fans harbor many superstitions, thus Dan and I each wear our favorite Giants t-shirt during the game, except he's afraid that if he washes his shirt... Ah, God. Enough of the shirts, okay? I'm going to skip that. And I'm going to skip this. The very abridged Moni letter. Dear Moni, according to the TV, you may be... the 27th? According to the TV, you may be bracing for a big storm. I hope that it's not as bad as predicted, and that nothing or anyone sustains any damage. If we don't hear, we will assume that no good news is good news. And I'm going to skip the Halloween mention, because you have that in there. Martha, Jim, and the kids seem to be happy with the new living arrangements. One plus for me is that Jim is a good handyman, and he's willing to fix a few things around here for me. Ian had no skills along that line, nor did your dad. Dad does anything too quickly and half-assed. Don't tell him I said that, since his heart is in the right place. Oh, Dan. Dan does everything quickly and half-assed. But don't tell him I said that. That's what she said. That's what Mom said. Martha seems very happy with Jim. Sarah is being difficult, but that's independent of Jim's moving in, and more with her being 15. She's also having a hard time at school. Pam is tutoring her every Monday night in math and biology to help her catch up. Pam is on the short list of people that Sarah gets along with. Her birthday party about a month back was a disaster because we'd eaten late. It was after 8 p.m., and she wanted to go to Great America to meet her friends. Martha said no. Mother of all tantrums followed. We never got to the cake and presents. In fact, nobody wanted to give her anything after that. It was a pretty awful display. Both Ian and Jim were on her case. Martha was in tears. And I'm going to skip that rest of that. But the next Sunday she wanted her party, and she even talked Martha into it. I said, forget about that. I was going to save her birthday present for Christmas. She was here when the Giants won the pennant, and we were in a great mood. Plus, Sarah had been behaving for 2 weeks, so I gave her a gift. I mean, what am I going to do? Lady Gaga perfume. So it was all peaceful at the moment, but well, the anti-money rehab was actually discussed since you've done it. Well, now it was years ago. She did such a great job straightening out our teenagers before. Yeah, Moni didn't want to do that. You're off the hook for now, but in self-defense, advise you to keep your bedrooms full. I went to Minnesota last month for my 60th high school reunion and had a great time. And better than I expected, so I didn't particularly like a lot of those women in high school in the clique that I was in. They all had moved out west, and I barely see them. But because I had relatives that I cared about in Duluth, I decided to go. Yeah, I thought she kind of liked that story. Oh well. The ladies had mellowed out, and it was fun. So were the relatives, mostly nieces and cousins. And I got to see everyone that I wanted to see. Niece Marjorie's son, Teddy, celebrated his 21st birthday, and I was invited to dinner at the birthday party. I got to see my brother-in-law, Bill, who also, his wife is named Martha. On the way back, I had dinner with and stayed overnight with niece Rosemary in Lino Lakes, and I wouldn't have to drive so far to Minneapolis Airport and the next day. Yes, that might sound familiar, but yes, Lino Lakes Butter. This is a butter company. You can butter in the store. It's a coincidence, but yeah, that's where it's made. On the way back to Rosie's, I stopped for a break at a casino and got a Royal Flush 1000, which more than paid for the trip for which I had been stretching my budget in the first place. Southwest flies to Minneapolis now, and you can't beat the fares on their refund policies. We don't need to talk about that. Let's skip that. And then niece Rosemary is also now a grandma for the first time, and like you, is loving every minute of it. I don't get to see little Evelyn, but I come back with plenty of pictures, which reminds me, I don't do Facebook, so if you can spare any snapshots of Harley, they would be appreciated. Yes, Harley is named after Harley Quinn from Batman, which is awesome. Everyone is worried because Donovan isn't talking more than a couple of words, so Pam and Dan had him tested this week for autism. The doctor decreed that he is way too social to be autistic. Oh yeah, he was, even at 2, he was, no, he's not. Then he passed a hearing test with flying colors. Next they will see a speech therapist. I've heard him say oh and no, and sometimes, so it sounds like Gigi, my new name around him. Stands for great grandma. So he's not mute, and he's smart, so smart that it's scary. The problem probably is that he points to something and 6 people rush to get it. Why should he bother talking then? But, Meanwhile, happy Halloween and go Giants. Love Victoria. Yeah, he was. Yeah, we were just giving him so much attention he didn't talk. But he started, and he wouldn't stop. We're gonna pause right here just to check something. Okay, go on to Judy letter. A little bit of an update. November 11th. This is from Judy. Hi, Auntie Vic. Hope you're feeling better. What kind of bug did you get? I'm sure you had a flu shot. Mom is eating very well and has gained a few pounds. She looks good too. Greg is coming out tomorrow, so we'll have lunch with her in the group. We'll be staying overnight, and we will go to the Hollywood Casino on Tuesdays. There's a casino called Hollywood. It's in Chicago. They sent me a $30 pay thing, so I'll at least have that money. My gambling fund is pitiful. It is time to turn this luck thing around. Well, we'll let you know. There's a service today at Mom and Dad's church in Arlington Heights honoring vets who had passed in the last year. Unfortunately, it was on a forward, so I didn't get until yesterday, and already had plans for today. Their pastor, Bonnie, is the one who did Dad's service at the funeral. She's very nice. The church does still send cards out to Mom and the Vines, but I don't think she had a clue who they are. Did I tell you that the cemetery had the wrong date of death on Dad's headstone? Actually, it was the VA who did it. So it's now they had to take it out and redo the whole thing. I remember when we spotted the wrong date on Uncle Bob's and they were able to fix it right away. This whole mess has taken months, go figure. Give me an update with you when you leave, when you have time. Love, Julie.
So cute. That has nothing to do with anything. Anyway. Yeah. Can't have that. Okay, November 20, 2012. Dear George, in yesterday's mail I received 2 CDs from Peter Tobias. He said that one was for you. I'm busy getting ready for the gang at Thanksgiving, so I haven't had time to sit down and really look at it. Although, I did go through them quickly. And then they mentioned a JPEG, and you can't tell it from the picture. But that is Tom Barrett. I have to ask Tom Barrett if he got a better shot of it. Nobody did. Everyone attended except for Darlene, who had to leave before the reunion even started. I'm not sure why, so I didn't get to see her. If you want to know about any of the other pictures, just name the JPEG. and I will interpret as best I can. You asked the sisters if they did anything for us. Primarily, it was the Heritage Tour. On the top floor of the college is a kind of museum. A really ancient but spry nun conducted the tour and shared lots of knowledge about the heirlooms, mostly donated from benefactors, when they got them, their history, etc. Not many from the reunion attended, as this was described as a college tour, and the Duluthians were not that interested. The Heritage event was in conjunction with actual college tour, and we got to walk through Stanbrook Hall, it used to be, but it was barely recognizable. Had the sisters not pointed out some landmarks. There was another get-together at the college to which we were invited. I didn't attend, as it was mainly nuns and ex-nuns. I think at least 6 from the class had left the convent, including Jean, that is Catherine. She's now an atheist, but I don't know about the others. Most of them were married or widowed. I'm surprised to learn that Tom and Mary Jean Barrett, they were also part of the group that went to Portland last year, were planning on to move back to Duluth. That's going to be quite a contrast with Seal Beach, California. Tom's sister left the Bay Area last year for Florida, that is that Tom, for Florida, which makes a little more sense than putting up with Duluth winters. So they no longer have family holding them here, and they never had children of their own, which may be why they look so relaxed in the picture. They're a great couple. I'm going to miss seeing them almost every year. Peter and Kathy Tobias will be married 50 years next June 22nd. This was also Bob's and my wedding date. We would have been 50 years last June. I was talking about this last June with my granddaughter, Sarah, and told her that I'd like to do something special in honor of the 50 years. She told me that I should get a tattoo. The horrifying thought was she was serious. So, yeah. I'm obviously not Victoria. I'm just reading. Yeah. In case you didn't notice that I'm not. You know, sometimes I feel as though this world has become a very strange place.
Yeah, just read this. Okay, Dee Dee Campanerio. One of the people that went to the reunion. She won't write about the reunion to her, because she, yeah. December 6th. December 6th, Dee Dee. I was going through boxes of stuff that I had in the guest room, because we may have house guests for Christmas. I hope not, but more about that later. I found out this Christmas postcard from your dad. I thought you would get a laugh out of it. And it might bring back some memories. I can't show you the card. It's always great to hear from you, even when the stationery isn't as fancy as it was last year. I'm going to skip that. You must have been starved by the time the second half of the turkey got cooked. It sounds as though you got an awful lot of it just for the visit. I see if I can ever coax you to visit California. I'll have to create an agenda, since you're used to such accommodations. She never wants people to come by. She writes to all these people, and then when they showed up, she didn't like that. She just stopped writing that. Anyway, back to the story. Donovan is finally saying a few words. At least we tell ourselves that they're words. No is quite distinct, and I clearly heard him call me Gigi, but he's not quite ready for the public lecture circuit. But we're all more relaxed about it. I wish that David had been here to take our Giants family picture. I didn't know why this one turned out dark. We'd chosen another one, other than the one Martha bought over a dozen of these, and I liked them better, because the faces, some of them anyway, show up better than the one we ended up choosing. If I can coax Adam into printing more, I may also send the winning photo. We tried about 20 different shots and erased most of them, because each time somebody in the group had a complaint because they'd crossed their eyes or looked too fat or something. It was at that point when Donovan got restless and started tossing around his baseball cap and baseball doll, because since he's a boy, I can't call it a doll. He's politically correct, but it sure looked like a doll. It was a doll. It was an action figure. It was a plush doll. It was an action, yeah. It wasn't an action figure. It was a doll. You know, but what does he chew? It's fine. Perhaps calling it a family picture isn't quite correct either, since top and left, and then he gives descriptions. We don't need that. Yeah, it's fine. It's a birthday picture. It exists. Back to the Giants. During the playoffs, but before the Giants had even won the National League title, got a phone call from Michigan. Stepson Robert had a daughter who lives near Detroit. Her husband Sheldon is the one who phoned. He told us that he was pulling for the Giants. The Detroit Tigers had already won their league title at that point. Then Sheldon said that, unlikely as it seemed even to us at the point, if the Giants did win and were facing the Tigers in the World Series, of course he and Lisa would have to switch loyalties. We told him that we understand that we actually had been rooting for the Tigers to win and go to the World Series, which was true. When, despite all odds, the Giants actually did win, we started a little email battle razzling each other. It was fun for a while. But when the Tigers were so pathetic and the Giants were so good, I started to feel sorry for the Michigan grandkids. In fact, the last game, we didn't have the heart to email rub it in. And you probably wondered why they hadn't heard from us. What happened is that our soft hearts didn't stay kind. It was Danny's idea, but I was the one who brought the broom and brought it to UPS and told them to mail it to my grandson in Michigan. The UPS man laughed his butt off and said that he was going to make a box for the broom for free because it was a really cool grandma but doing this to the grandson. The UPS guy was black and maybe even had relatives in Detroit. Well, she's racist. He may not have relatives in Detroit. He might be from California. Let's not assume. Well, what happened is the broom handle was painted orange, Giants colors. And then on the outside it said spray painted, so that it worked in the box. I brought the spray paint and brought it over to Danny, who worked in Milpitas 3 or 4 days. Milpitas mentions the facility here, just randomly. Okay, bought it to Danny, period. During the lunch hour, he painted the broom and also lettered the broomstick in black. Giants, world champions, and then implying sweep. Sweeping broom, that's the joke. The UPS guy loved it, and when he finally got the broom back, just before closing, cost $26 to mail the darn thing, that Dan and I decided that some things are just worth it. And don't forget that the box was for free. The kids phoned after they got the broom and seemed to be pretty good sports about it, reminding Lisa that one of her dad's favorite sayings was, if you can't take a joke, you shouldn't be in the family. But the same phone conversation, they announced that they'd like to drive out for Christmas. And they have a 10-year-old, also named Daniel. And asked if it was okay. It was not my idea of tidings of great joy. Christmas is hectic enough with 5 house guests. They have 3 kids. Sheldon explained that Robert was not doing well with his emphysema. I already knew that. And she thought she'd better see her dad for Christmas. Robert's doctor won't let him travel, so after Christmas, they plan to drive from here up to Vancouver, Washington to see him. Robert loves his daughter, but he's pretty dismayed that they want to come to Christmas. For one thing, he doesn't have much energy these days, and 5 extra people in the same house that he shares with Yvonne, he thinks it will be a disaster. Nobody has money for motels. The reason they can get away with it is that she's on disability for a work-related shoulder injury. And Sheldon is a housing contractor, and there's not much building in midwinter in Detroit. They don't really live in Detroit, do they? So they don't mind a lot cross-country drive in their truck. They're not near Detroit. They're in Grand Rapids area. They're not Detroit. I wish I keep saying Detroit. Robert told me that they told him they wanted to come out because Grandma was getting up there in years and they had better visit while she's still around. Talk about covering all the bases. Apparently they don't know that Robert and I communicate. I told him that if they do come, I would have to get out a cane and act decrepit so they don't think that it was a wasted trip. Another thing Robert and I discussed is how to get them to wait until spring when we'd rather have the company. He said he'd already tried to talk Lisa out of coming to Christmas time and we would give it another shot. But that she seems pretty determined. You know, these aren't the same people who came for Bob's second to last Christmas because Grandpa was so sick. So I had an invalid and 5 house guests, not to mention the needs of the rest of the family. By the time Christmas was over, I was ready to commit mass murder. Situations like that remind me of Eleanor. She was so good to me growing up. I would drop in unannounced and just take it for granted that she was delighted to see me because she always acted delighted to see me. Yes. I'm sure there were times when it was inconvenient, if not downright pain in the ass. Relatives do take a lot of privilege. I guess it's my turn. But relatives aren't the only ones who impress. I'm sure that your folks were not always ready for dropping on visitors. I do not like dropping visitors, mainly because there's always some mess in the living room, but in general principle, too. Even my kids phone ahead if they're coming over, except for Dan. I cannot civilize him. He would notice if the wind had taken out the front window. No clutter shows improvement. But he has Donovan with him. They make a show of picking up toys, but the room looks a lot worse when they leave. Since I already had a large plastic slide and a stuffed red dog bigger than I am occupying the living room, not to mention a huge plastic bin containing Donovan's train set, which used to be Phil's. I should have given it and its gazillion plastic parts to the Goodwill while I had the chance. All I can really do is ask for a path so they don't break a hip. They kind of do that. Non-family companies expect a heads up given me to get Adam to haul the stuff out to the garage temporarily. They tell me I will miss all of the some days, and I probably will. This is becoming a book. It's a little depressing to learn that some people already have their cards out, gifts purchased, and decorations up. The box is full of mine, or all cluttered in the living room. To compensate, I may keep everything up till March. Jacob shot a deer. Jacob shot a deer. Impressive for 12-year-old. She referred to Jacob. How did the sausage making go? She asked about that. I guess we lowbrows become attracted to people who need to fill deficits. And Adam will be in the church Christmas musical tomorrow night, so I can't get out of going. That about sums up the Christmas entertainment, although we generally run our CD of the Rockettes at least once over the holiday. Also, Adam has been busy this year converting old VCR tapes to CDs. Time allows, we might all sit down and view dabs of Christmas past. We will look up what's generally good for a few laughs, or maybe a sob or two. Tell Misty hi for me, and a wonderful Christmas. That's a Christmas letter. Yeah. I started this a few minutes ago. This is Casey, dear Vicky. From Casey, dear Vicky, Christmas letter. I started this a few minutes ago by commenting on the horrible events of the news recently, and then quite inadvertently managed to delete everything I had written. I decided that it was my subconscious demanding that I stop dwelling on all the depressing stuff, so I will. I'm very sorry to hear about Marie. I'll keep her in my thoughts and prayers. It also sends to me... It's just that thoughts and prayers is a term that everybody says, but I'm sure she means it. I'm sure she means it. It sounds to me like you're well on the way to having Christmas totally under control. I'm impressed. I'm slacking off this year. I did all my shopping via the internet. Everything was promised to get there on time. But I'm still waiting. Hopefully the stores don't lie to me. Besides, Christmas. It's Fina's birthday today, in fact. I just talked to Michael. He told me that we would stop by here on the way home from taking her out to lunch. That's Michael's girlfriend or wife, I think. Maybe wife. Future wife. They solved one problem for me. It solved one problem for me since I was wondering how to get her present to her on time. This is the first year I've not given her a fancy dressy dress for her birthday. Also, she's no longer... does fancy dresses, so this year she's getting an iPod. Maybe Venus's daughter, I don't know. The weather here has been typical Portland, cold and rainy and altogether dreary. This does not encourage me to get out much. I've been doing a lot of reading, good. A lot of TV watching, well, not so good. Michael took me shopping at a mall this day recently, and aside from that, I have pretty much avoided the madhouse out there. I did indeed notice Jean's retreat. Maybe she's learning or something. Well, have a wonderful Christmas with your family. Please don't run yourself ragged. Love, Casey. Dear Rosie, it's been a pretty good year, made all the more special by being able to spend time with you and Victor, your sisters, and your dad. I'm hoarding great memories of the trip. Well, it's an official Giants family picture. We're going to skip that. And it was Danny's idea to send a broom. Well, the sweep the Tigers broom. Yeah, we've already been over that. Skip. And the Michigan relatives wanted to come and visit. And Robert phoned today, and she's right about the letter, currently. Robert is not doing well physically, which of course I knew to be true. And maybe they should have him in case something happens. After Christmas, with us, they plan to drive to Vancouver, Washington. Well, Robert phoned today. He's not thrilled about the timing of their visit, because Christmas is so hectic and Ivana's in retail and couldn't help him much with 5 house guests. 5 house guests at Christmas is not my idea of glad tidings either. I would enjoy them much more if they came after Christmas. Robert was going to phone them today and try to get them to make it a little later, but he did say that they seemed pretty determined. Ironically, they told Robert that the reason that they wanted to come was because Grandma's getting up there in age, and we should visit her while we can. It looks like they're covering all the bases. Maybe they come and I should get a cane. And okay, he's gone over that before, because he's literally cutting and pasting from other letters. Let's skip that. My sister-in-law Martha, that is Martha Mossberger, has improved physically, and they put her in hospice because she's lost so much weight from not eating. Of course, she still thinks that her husband is alive and keeps wanting him to show up and take her from the Vegas hotel, the nursing home, to the airport to go back to Chicago. She's in Chicago. Some days she even thinks Bob should be visiting her one of these days. Let's hope not. But now, because he's been dead for years, but now she's eating again. I'm hoping to send her some chocolates for Christmas. She seems to know me on the phone yesterday, although you can never tell. Both she and Bob had their drop of Irish charm and convinced you that they were so glad to hear from you again when they had no idea in the hell you were hell you were. It helped Bob a lot in politics. Actually, Dad wasn't Alzheimer's at all. And yeah, he just didn't know, couldn't remember people. Kind of can't either. But it's not that. I don't remember if I told you this, but I got horribly lost on the way to the airport. Oh, she's writing about the airport when she went to the meeting, I guess. They went to the reunion. I didn't remember if I told you this, but I got horribly lost on the way to the airport. I was doing fine when there were so many signs to read, and I was in the wrong lane by one, and I sailed past the exit. I stopped by a mom-and-pop grocer in downtown St. Paul, and they were super nice, but their directions got me even more lost. Finally, I spotted an Enterprise franchise, and I went in there acting like it was their fault. I was lost just because I was driving one of their cars. That was on the trip. They went out of their way to help this obviously senile old lady, and even took my cell phone number in case I didn't call them after I had reached a certain point toward the airport. The directions were excellent, and I arrived with plenty of time to spare. In February, niece Judy, Martha's daughter, and her husband Ken are flying into Vegas and driving a rental up here. After a couple days of visiting with the family, they are taking me with them back to Vegas. After winning my fortune, I'll hop on a plane to go back home. I can't wait. And then they mentioned Southwest. We don't care about that. I'm betting that plenty of people that don't really need wheelchairs to ask for them on a plane and for accommodations. We don't need that. Adam will be 42 on Friday. This was this back in November when she wrote this. They celebrate official on Sunday. Yeah, so this was written in November. She does her Christmas letters before Christmas, in case you didn't know. Dear John and Marty, Christmas 2012. Dear John and Marty, we have seen this picture on Facebook, because Martha sometimes mentions news of you from here. I'm not into that stuff because, to me, computers are a necessary evil. As far as I sometimes worry, this will get them into trouble with future employers for stuff she puts out there. I would even, if you'd seen it, there's a personal copy for you. Probably recognize everybody. So she sent out the Christmas picture, basically. Back to bitching about computers. Sometimes I think that today's teenagers don't even know how to make social small talk because they always have something plugged in their ears, so that discourages them from having any conversations with whomever is in the room with them. Whenever I give Sarah a ride somewhere, it is always in silence, which I think is rude, because she is constantly attending to the gadget. I have complained to Martha, but I don't see much improvement. I have banned everything electronic at the dinner table. I'm going to be extra busy this Christmas, as my stepson Robert's daughter, Lisa, and her family and I will be here for Christmas. Since I didn't get much notice on this, I've had to add shoveling out the guest rooms to the general Christmas rush, which is why I started working on my cards. And I'm going to skip. Yes, I am going to skip. She mentions the funny broom being sent, and the 50th high school reunion at the end of this. And that I had a wonderful time at my, because it related to the other stuff better. I had a wonderful time at my 60th high school reunion at the end of September. I got to spend some time with Don and June after I returned from his trip with you. I've noted that through, and this is incidentally to Marty and, yeah, so it's the other guy. I've routed through Chicago to visit my in-laws. My husband's sister, yeah. It was my original plan, because at the time my sister-in-law was doing too poorly that they put her in hospice, and I figured that I would have to save my trip to Chicago for sadder purposes. But now she's doing better and has begun to eat and put on a few pounds. Of course, mentally is another story. She still is waiting for her husband, who died last February, to come back to take her out of the Vegas hotel. Take her out of this Vegas hotel, which is the nursing home, and catch a plane back to Chicago. Someday she's even wondering why Bob will come see her. That is sad. Why Bob doesn't come to see her. That is sad. I hope that you have a good year, and that the next one is even better. Say hi to the girls for me. Well, it's not a finale, but in this story it is. George. Dear George, just a little after Christmas. My grandchildren from Michigan left this morning, and I am pretty much buried in dirty towels and sheets, and used Christmas wrap, and have been trying to surface for days to get a card out to you. I know that you were gone for Christmas, so I didn't worry too much about making December 25th. But now that it's too late for that, I don't want to write at this point. My first opportunity, and I don't want anything to bump this New Year's card in favor of a Valentine. You are not the only one on my list who has suffered neglect. To make up for it, you have been first to a card list, as in card neglect. First card list in 2013. I've already marked my calendar. I hope that you had a good, relaxing time with your sisters, and that Christmas went well, despite the inevitable reminders of last December. I've been spending more time than I had Christmas note, than I had put aside to answer with your Christmas card. It will turn up, and I will miss my inquiries on your part. I will answer them next time. I hope that you had a nice visit with your priest friend. I know that you will want this nice letter from Janice to remind you of the good times not counting the 6 months incapacity for the broken ankle. I found it misfiled and was looking for something else. I made a copy for myself, as did the other letters I sent to you. For one thing, I just want them. For a second reason is that when Adam and I got around to writing the family history, as we had promised ourselves, I usually did recap the year to Janice at Christmas. Therefore, I can use her letter as reference to the highlights and lowlights of that year. My memory is not what it used to be. She's been cutting and pasting letters. That's why she's not actually writing them. She's been practicing her memory. I do remember Bill Shalik well. He's sort of hard to forget. And his sweet brother, Gary. Say hello for me. Christmas was fun here, but total chaos. No problem, everyone punted. They arrived earlier than I was ready for. And to be honest, true preparedness would have required a March 2013 arrival date. Adam and I have a lot of ongoing projects. We thought we had Christmas celebrated plans decided, but then Pam's girlfriend's family decided last minute to fly to Chicago December 26th, moving their Christmas celebration from Christmas night to Christmas Eve. Martha and Jim had already planned to go to his mother's on Christmas Eve, as is their family tradition, with a promise to stop over before the midnight church service. That left me and Adam only after I had told the guests that there would be Christmas Eve dinner and such. Well, Ian volunteered to help entertain, not the kind of offer one usually expects from an ex-son-in-law, and I appreciated it. Past Christmases I've made Yorkshire pudding to remind him of his home in England. The fact that I did not this year has nothing to do with being an ex-son-in-law, with the price of prime rib skyrocketing because I thought I would have many others to feed. The menu got switched to ham. I did make popovers, though. Almost the same ingredients as Yorkshire pudding, but not as tasty. Although a favorite of mine. Do you recall what used to be the Black Bear Hotel in downtown Toulouse? Bob and I had our first date there, and they featured popovers. It's related. The official family Christmas included Ian again, and it took place last night, Christmas dinner. Just having 13 people at Christmas in a small house, I said that this was a memorable Christmas. The relatives stayed an extra day to take me to casino, because I needed some R&R to get at that point. We both knew that it works. My granddaughter's husband is a home builder, so we fixed a few things for me while he was here. Sheldon put a handrail on the wall for the two-step leading out to the garage, put up a new screen on the patio door, and added a hook and eye that looks from the outside, upright, the bedroom doors. The Donovan can't do any more exploring. He wants to come back and redo my kitchen cabinets and says he's a layout in mind that would give me more counter space. Too bad they live so far away and can only visit every couple of years. But I have started a list for next time. Well, back to my Christmas card list. At least my cards this year will get more attention than when to arrive. When they should. I have a few that haven't had time to open. Take care and Happy New Year. They've arrived at the conference, Captain. Captain, we've arrived. The play is over. It's a tribute casting party, but yeah, the play's over. Yeah. 3 movies in this play here. Well, 6 hours, roughly. A little over 6 hours. 6.5 hours. Yeah, that's a little long, but, yeah. Like those letters were. Well, interesting. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to all. And to all a good night. Yes. Happy holidays to all. And live long and prosper. Well, I guess all of the zombies is cured and everything. So everything's okay with the world again. Until next time.
I do not believe in superstition. I do not think it will be jinxed. Yes. Live long and prosper.